Recording is in progress.
Fantastic. Hello, everyone. I am Kara Jean, executive coach, speaker, and curator of the Kara Method. I work with leaders who are ready to ditch the hustle cult and step into clear, aligned impact. My tools with neurospicy are neurospicy and practical and human because for me, leadership is about building ecosystems where people thrive together. And that's why I'm here at the empathy movement, because empathy is the fuel that makes so much of that real. I'm excited to get started. Please note we are recording this. I know Edwin just said that, but I'm saying it again. We're recording the summit for educational and promotional purposes, and the video recording will be posted on social media. There is also a feedback form in the chat. Please submit a feedback form so that not only can we have your email and stay in touch, but we understand what we can do better and what you enjoyed. Please feel free to write your comments in the chat and permission to take care of your needs if you need. We will not be pausing through the speakers for bio breaks, but if you need a bio break or your kids need attention or the fur babies are fur babying, please feel free to take care of that. On behalf of the Empathy Center, I would love to welcome you to this Empathy Summit on the topic of how might we build this empathy movement. The Empathy Center's mission is to build an empathy movement and to raise the level of mutual empathy in the world, which, seeing where everybody is from today, good job, everyone. I got distracted by how well we're doing. Building empathy through the world, through education and community initiatives. That's where I am. We want to thank all of our partners and sponsors. The Empathy Center and the empathy community would love to share how grateful we are to our generous sponsors and partners. You can see a list of our past sponsors and current ones on our website. We invite you to be our organization partner and or sponsor. So if you would like information about that, please go see the website. We also want to thank our volunteers. They're generous and they are terrific. And because of their freely given time, this is what makes these summits possible and the events free. If you would like to help build the empathy movement and join the Empathy Summit crew, let us know. We meet every Friday. We'd love to have you. The Empathy Center's mission is to build the empathy movement and raise the level of mutual empathy in the world through education and community initiatives. I know I said it again before, but it's worth saying again. The summit launches ongoing series focused on collaboratively building the empathy movement. It aims to co-create a meaningful experience and share its outcomes. So let us start by co-creating this empathy summit together. And when it is all over, please share its fruits, all that we harvest from it, as widely as possible and as much as you can. It is now my pleasure to introduce Edwin Rush, the founder and director of the Empathy Center. Edwin is also the developer of and long-term evangelist of the Empathy Circle practice and movement. Today, Empathy will be talking about why it is beneficial to think in terms of building an empathy movement. Over to you, Edwin.
Okay, thank you, Kara. And you're in a lovely background there. You're at the Eco Village in Oregon, right? Eugene, Oregon.
Yes, Lost Valley Eco Village.
Yeah, great that you're looks wonderful that background. So yeah, well, thank you again. And so I want to welcome you to this first of an ongoing series of empathy summits on how to build the empathy movement. These summits are going to be held every 4 months going forward now. So we'll have one in January and April, July and October. And we want to support the building of this empathy movement. We're really making this a focus of our center. And we have a wide variety of speakers, talking about how to build the movement. And we also want to invite you to be a speaker, to get involved. And if you have if you're an empathy activist, if you have, ideas about how to build the movement, if you have projects you're working on, like to hear, have you share those. And what I want to talk about today a little bit, just a little bit, only have about 6, 7 minutes to talk about this, to introduce this, is why it is helpful to think in terms of building an empathy movement. A lot of us, and I just posted into the chat too that I'd love to hear your thoughts, about that. And you can just go on into that Google Doc and add your thoughts about why it's beneficial to think in terms of an empathy movement versus just, oh, I'm promoting empathy, and you just think in terms of it. It's sort of an individualistic initiative, and thinking about it is in terms of a movement as being part of something bigger, really bigger than ourselves. And I personally feel pretty quite energized, about when I think about building an empathy movement. We have our empathy center board that meets every week, and we have different project teams that meet. And really, our focus has been on the empathy, uh, movement. Like, what are our different initiatives, and how do those initiatives fit into a bigger movement? And with that, I feel, one thing that a movement, thinking in terms of a movement, gives us is a shared purpose. And I feel that sense of connection. I feel that, I'm working with others. We have this shared work that we're doing. And also, when thinking in terms of a movement, it's there's sort of a sense of community that gets built out of that. And I know there's a lot of different projects out there, and you can be kind of just involved in your own projects. But those projects, when they're part of a bigger movement, I think that really adds a lot. And something that it gives, I think, is a sense of belonging. That you're part of something bigger than yourself. It also creates fosters a sort of an intrinsic motivation. So if you're just doing a your own project campaign, the motivation is more extrinsic, and you got deadlines, bonuses, specific metrics that you've got to hit, and and with the movement, the motivation is intrinsic. It comes from shared values, it comes from a collective identity, and sort of a deep belief, I think, in what the future, what future is possible. And people aren't just participating; they're believers, I guess. And I come from an evangelical background, so this is perhaps a bit of that kind of aspect to it. That you're really part of something bigger, and that you want to really change society. And I think for me, it creates a lot of passion. I feel very passionate about it, and really excited. And it's really a renewable energy source, I think, for everyone involved that money can't buy. And I think the other part too is in thinking in terms of a movement is that it's helpful because it enables a long-term change, based on shared action rather than, again, like that isolated short-term effort. And the other, I think it's something that can unite the various tribes. Like if you're familiar with Carl Rogers' person-centered work, there are a lot of different sort of tribes got created out of his empathy work. There's all kinds of therapy, various types of therapy. There's conflict mediation, organizations like nonviolent communication, human-centered design, the focusing community, listening community. There's empathy initiatives in education, business, and healthcare. And I think that empathy can be a unifying force to bring all those different organizations that have empathy is one part of them together. And again, it's really about that ongoing long-term effect. Like if you have a movement that's based on a leader, for example, I would say the current Trump administration in MAGA is based on a leader. And if the leader goes, I think the movement really falls apart. Or that type of top more authoritarian type movement with one leader falls apart. But a broad movement that is sort of based on values, different can can really help us, be more resilient. And then what we're really wanting to do is change the culture. The movement creates laws and really changes the the overall culture, and that's really what we're trying to focus on. And so I just wanted to look at some of the comments that people posted in the Google Doc. Bill says that thinking in terms of a movement provides a framework to work together. So I think that that does, yeah, I really agree with that. That uh, thinking of, hey, I'm part of this empathy movement to transform society, to make mutual empathy a core cultural value, that creates a common vision to work together effectively with. And Daniel says a movement says we're going somewhere, and I have that sense too. That being part of this movement, there's a forward motion, step by step, and we certainly need that in society right now. And I think Jana here, she quoted Martin Luther King, who says, "Those who want peace need to learn to organize as effectively as those who want war." And I think that the a movement gives us that framework for organizing, and also a movement is going to work toward. And Catherine Cooley, who's one of our speakers here, posted a movement is systematic change, and it's necessary to embed empathy in our culture in any kind of meaningful and sustainable way. And somebody's writing right now, they're saying a movement is dynamic, something that can spread organically. Yeah, I really, really like that. That once we create this momentum, once we create this momentum, we've got to build momentum for it. And that's really what we want to do in these summits. And again, I invite you to become a speaker and in one of the future summits that are coming up. And that's my time, so I'm going to pass it on to Kara again. Thank you.
I got so many golden nuggets out of that. Thank you so much, Edwin. Okay, so reminder to everybody, Empathy Summits will be every 4 months. That was excellent. Thanks for starting that way. I love passion as a renewable energy source. I will be using that. Thank you. And the individual initiatives as part of a shared movement that allows us to be bigger than ourselves. Ooh, so good. And shared actions for concrete change in community and culture beyond those lead laws, something that spreads organically, which is an excellent segue to bringing in Jody Jensen. So, speaking of concrete change and the clarity needed for that, it is now my pleasure to introduce Jody Jensen. Jody, an empathy researcher at Brigham Young and University, she is pursuing a doctorate degree in social psychology and studies empathy in the broader context of positive psychology and character development. Oh, I'm already excited. Today, Jody will be talking about a clearer empathy definition for a stronger empathy movement. Take it away, Jody. Oh, we got you muted. Somebody click her so she can unmute.
One second. Are you able to unmute? You should be.
Here we go. Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Hey.
And take it away, Jody.
Thank you so much. Just while Edwin was talking, I was looking at everybody's pictures or their video screens and trying to connect over the screen with each of you. It feels a little bit, I feel a little bit disconnected right now, and I wish that we could have a conversation about this topic. And so after I'm done speaking, I actually have to leave to go to another conference, but reach out to me if you want to continue talking about the definitions of empathy. I really want this to be a continued collaborative process. Just to give you a little bit of background, I've been meeting with Edwin for the past like 9 months because we've been trying to figure out how do you define this term empathy. And so a few years ago, when I decided I wanted to be an empathy researcher, I thought I knew what it meant. And so I'm just curious if everybody can put in the chat how you define this term empathy. Maybe just like a one sentence definition of how do you define empathy? And if one of the hosts can allow me to share my screen, I have a little presentation. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm seeing a process of connecting of the other, accepting, being present and connected with myself and others, attunement to someone's experience, imagining how the other feels, and active listening. These are all really great definitions. Okay, if it's going to let me share my screen, we'll get into this. Okay, so as Edwin said, it's important for us to have a clear definition of what we mean by this term empathy if we want to create a stronger empathy movement. And I'm sorry, it's not letting me change my slide. Here we go. This is maybe getting into a little bit of my background of why this kind of thing, why this topic matters so much to me. I remember as a teenager and as a young adult seeing pictures like this and feeling deeply, deeply moved by the plight of so many suffering in the world. And so I wanted to devote my life to perhaps overcoming some of the inequality that there is in the world, perhaps helping those who cannot help themselves. When I see this picture, I feel a deep sense of love, concern, sadness. And I want you to maybe tune in right now to some of the things you might be feeling as you look at this. And we already talked about this, your definitions of empathy. I'll read a few more of them. Seeing the world through someone else's eyes, receiving another being. I love that one. Feeling and understanding others' emotions and circumstances, and dealing with others with passion, and practice mutual emotional connection, connecting to one another. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. So, excuse me, I should have gotten a drink of water before coming on. In the empathy literature in psychology, there are a lot of different definitions of this term, and some of them overlap with things that people shared in the chat, and some of them are a little bit different than what we might expect. So I'll just really briefly go through some of these. It could be that it's an intellectual perspective-taking process where you don't feel the emotions of another. So that's one perspective. Another perspective is that it's an emotionally reactive process where you feel the emotions of the other person only. So that's how it's been operationalized by other researchers. Another perspective on this is that you identify and you feel the emotion of the other person. Recognize and share, that's maybe another way of saying that same thing. Let's see, perhaps it's emotion contagion. Perhaps you're able to maintain your separateness while objectively looking at the state of the other person. Perhaps it is an active listening process, which is a communicative process. Perhaps it's a vulnerable process where you show up vulnerably and you're allowing yourself to enter into the world of another person. Perhaps it's a set of skills. Perhaps it is a self-aware intention to understand. Perhaps we're talking about it from a neurological perspective, and we're talking about mirror neurons firing together. So maybe it's neural resonance. Kind of an overarching theme in a lot of the empathy literature in psychology and neuroscience is a three-pronged approach where it's cognitive empathy, which is similar to that perspective taking definition. And the second would be this affective empathy, which is the emotion sharing with another person. And the third is empathic concern, which many people would call compassion as well. So it looks like we're kind of a little bit all over the board on this, right? In general, though, it seems that most people, like according to Hodges in 2009, most people see this term as a good thing. Fast forward to today, and maybe not everybody agrees on that, right? So we have all of these different aspects of this one umbrella term, which is empathy. So perhaps it's emotion contagion, emotional awareness, emotional understanding. Maybe it's compassion. Maybe it's a cognitive awareness or perspective taking. Perhaps it's neural resonance or active listening. It leaves me scratching my head. What are we even talking about here, right? So if we have so many different ways that we use this one word, it's no wonder that we have a bit of confusion about if it's a beneficial process or if it's a negative process. This is a great quote from West and colleagues in 2007. He says, progress is often hindered by poor communication between scientists, with different people using the same term to mean different things, or different terms to mean the same thing. The potential for such semantic confusion is greatest with interdisciplinary research. And so perhaps what I call empathy is what somebody else calls emotion contagion. But yet another person might call empathy the same thing as active listening. But are we talking about the same thing, or are we talking about separate processes? So this has led to a bit of a measure. This really quickly. In psychology, we have different researchers using different definitions and operationalizing it based on those definitions. And then if you have a scale that is created to operationally measure a certain version of empathy, then another researcher uses that scale to measure something different. We end up with, according to this study here by Stasek and colleagues, 50% of these studies are not actually defining it the way that they're measuring it, which is kind of concerning. It's very concerning, actually. So I'm going to skip over this one for the sake of time, but I do want to focus in on Fisher's Einfühlung. So Einfühlung is a German term, and if you speak German, I apologize for my pronunciation of the term. But this term, it came from the world of aesthetics, like it's a way of interacting with art. It says in Online Etymology Dictionary, a term for a theory of art appreciation that maintains appreciation depends on the viewer's ability to project his personality into the viewed object. So keep that in mind, the viewer's ability to project his personality or her personality into the viewed object. This becomes a problem. It's fine when we're talking about art, but it becomes problematic when we start talking about it in terms of empathy. So it's very focused on the individual here, and she is projecting the way she sees the world into the art. Okay, so really quickly to go through this. So we have a bit of a problem here. So when Einfühlung was appropriated into psychology, it became this process where self is king and other is diminished. Okay, so it's a very egoistic approach that's very Freudian. And there becomes a misunderstanding of the value of empathy. So this has led to two different camps. So we have some researchers and political activists who are saying empathy is a bad thing because of the way that we have defined it. And then there are other people who are like, well, it's not a bad thing. We just need to revise the definition. And so because we have these two different camps here, what has happened is we really can't have a productive conversation about what empathy is anymore. And so that's what we're trying to address today. Okay, so I'm sure that some of you have seen this. There are many different active discontents who are very vocal about this. They call it suicidal, they call it toxic, they call it a sin, and they're very openly against empathy. So if, according to Hodges in 2009, most people in society see empathy as a good thing, what is happening? Why do we have such a wide disconnect right now? I'm going to skip over that as well. I think that we can kind of get to the bottom of this by understanding that when Einfühlung was brought into psychology to inform the way that we define empathy, it really inflated the self. And empathy is a process that happens inside of me. And it doesn't matter how it's really like how reality is actually happening inside the other person. So I get to decide how the other person feels. And so that's why at the beginning I was saying I wanted to be able to connect with all of you, because I feel like when there's a speaker and people listening, that allows me to inflate myself and diminish the others, which I don't like. I don't like that process. I don't like the feeling of others being objectified, or maybe even subconsciously thinking that they're incapable of feeling or experiencing without myself projecting what I think that they're feeling. Okay, so maybe with all of these problems, maybe we just scratch the whole thing. Maybe we just say empathy is a bad term and we can't make any progress if we're using this term empathy. But if we are informed by some really powerful thinkers over the past 2 centuries, perhaps we can see that the term itself is not the problem. Perhaps it's a deeper problem of the way that we see other human beings. And if we can address those underlying problems, then when we come up with a definition of empathy for our empathy movement, it will be informed by seeing another person not as an object and not as a subjective representation of how we see the world and how we believe that they should see the world. And as we understand that the other is ungraspable and infinite and powerful, then we create what is called an I-thou relationship, which is very different from this objectification that has crept in to psychology, where it happens inside the person and it doesn't happen in the in-between. So Martin Buber would say not only is it the I-thou relationship, but he really focuses on this space between the two people. So you'll notice in this graphic, I shrunk the size of the self a little bit and I increased the size of the other, because empathy is a process that happens between us. And a great thinker of our time, Edwin Rutsch, has said, when people complain that empathy is harmful to them, it is because it is unidirectional. It is not a problem with empathy, but a lack of empathy from the other person. And so we can get into a lot of the nuances of this, but I think the most important thing is that we're viewing the other person as equal to ourselves, no matter who they are. My perspective is important. Your perspective is important. And when we fundamentally understand that, that's when we see that empathy becomes something that should become a shared cultural value, rather than it being something that objectifies some people and calls other people perpetrators and their, other people victims. It creates this space where we are all equal, rather than creating the problems that many researchers and many activists have said that empathy can create. So to bring it all together, I'm just going to read this definition. I'll leave this one out for now, but we can talk about it later, but I'm almost out of time. But this is the way that Edwin has defined the term. Broadly defined, empathy is a way of being in relationship with life. It is an attitude of living with presence, deep listening, openness, being grounded, sensitivity to feelings, curiosity, and care. And so as we're moving forward talking about this empathy movement, that's the definition that we're talking about. And my time is up, but I would love to continue this conversation offline. If you want to reach out to me, I'll put my email address in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. That was amazing. I also thought that I had a deep understanding of what empathy meant until this talk blew up the possibilities for me. And I'm very excited to dive down the rabbit hole of operational applications of empathy in connection to the othering experience. Thank you for my new rabbit hole. I appreciate you. Everyone, reminder, she said, if you would like to connect on, to have more chats on empathy and the relationship of self with others, Jody's in. Let's do that. See you in the chat. And next we get to bring up Catherine Cooley. It is my pleasure to share Catherine with you, an organizational communication and conflict coach and trainer, certified in nonviolent communication, nonviolent compassionate communication. Today, Catherine will be taking on, can the empathy movement harmonize corporations? Ooh, say more, I'm listening.
Right. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Let me share my screen. All right. Yes, it's wonderful to be here with people who have actually gathered to talk about empathy and growing it as a movement. And just a special shout out to Edwin, Carla, Jean, the people who are working really hard to catalyze this. It's really fantastic to be here with everybody. And yeah, I really want to share today why I think that it's actually possible to have our empathy movement humanize our workplaces and really like what's happening there. And for me, the core belief around this is that we need, to have this happen and continue to grow because it is happening in business. I'll talk a little bit about that. Um, but we want to provide empathy and other emotional intelligence training that is genuine, precise, and experiential. And I think that precise goes to your point, Jody, to really know what we're talking about and so forth. And yeah, and so I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to kind of fly through this. But basically, I'm a communication and conflict coach and trainer, mediator, facilitator. And I really love working with companies, business teams, or organizational teams that are purpose driven in a really, really with intentionally purpose driven and with wide care for all the stakeholders that are impacted by their work, their companies. And my work is based on this man's work, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who you mentioned, Edwin, and Marshall actually did study with Carl Rogers. And I think that's the context you mentioned NVC in. And it's just a brilliant model for conflict, having productive conflict, and empathic and collaborative teamwork and culture building. And my point about genuine empathy, and I think this also goes to some of Jody's points about the confusion and the concern out there about empathy, right? That it can be manipulative, if it's not, and I think when people find it like that, besides the fact that it might not be mutually happening, like an actual mutual connection, that it's manipulative, but I think that happens when it's not an embodied experience for people. Uh, so embodied empathy, that's where the real connection happens. That's what actually builds the trust and sparks innovation and creates cultures, whether that's in an organization, a business, or wider society, where people want to give their best. And a lot of people would wonder, well, hey, what's the business case for this? I think a lot of people think, you know, how is that ever, how are we ever going to pay for this? Because if they're really tuned in, they'll know it takes some work and some time to actually implant these skills as embodied, right? Uh, so what's the business case? Well, and the good news is it's not just a feel-good idea. The research is showing that it does pay off, like literally in dollars, um, or whatever currency. And in the book, Firms of Endearment, companies built on human connection and purpose outperformed the S&P 500 by a factor of over 10 year of 10 by a factor of 10 over a time of 15 years. Why? Right? Because empathy drives loyalty and innovation and resilience, and actually a lot of things. And so these are some of the numbers that they found in Firms of Endearment, and uh, and it's you know it's the good news is that empathy in business now isn't really fringe anymore. It's getting more centrally focused. And so there's movements like the Benefit or B Corps, and this movement that this slide's from, Conscious Capitalism. That was a movement kickstarted by John Mackey, founder of Whole Foods, when he published his book Conscious Capitalism, and it was co-authored actually by the researcher and professor that wrote Firms of Endearment, Raj Sisodia. I just got to go to their conference in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. So that they studied those companies and found really big differences. And in terms of what conscious capitalism is, it's based on these four tenets, right? The higher purpose, stakeholder orientation. That means taking care of everybody around you, not just your executives and C-suite and investors, but your customers, your suppliers, not trying to squeeze every nickel and dime out of your suppliers, all the way through to the planet and how it's doing in terms of your impact. And the thing is that empathy is the core of really each of these main pillars. It's the golden thread that runs through all of it. And one of the points I really want to make today is that this consciousness shift that's happening in the business community is, I see it as like existentially really good news for all of us. Like literally even possibly for our survival because of the huge influence that corporations have on world economics, politics, and the environment, and even our social structures, right? Everything. And here's more of the business case. Companies that train empathy, 50% more net income based on study global empathy index of the top 10 companies and the bottom 10 companies and comparing them as reported in Money Magazine in 2016. Another business case put out by Google, just their very famous Aristotle project, studying their highest performing teams. Like, what's going on here? What's like the thread that links all of this great performance? And their study was based on Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson's work, and really it comes down to be fully present and optimally function at work, optimally functional at work, we have to feel safe. We have to know that we can talk about what's messy or sad or have hard conversations with colleagues that are driving us crazy. We can't just be focused on efficiency, like kind of the old school stuff, right? We want to know that people really care and they hear us, right? We want to know that our work matters, right? And so I want to share a little story. Like one of my clients is a CEO of a successful online retail company. And when he first came to me, he was kind of looking like this guy, just like, really, exhausted and struggling. He had some struggles with his business partner, but also like his customers. Like it just felt like one complaint after another, right, that was happening. And but through our work together, he came to this really, he, well, first of all, he started listening really differently to people, right? Instead of hearing the anger or blame that was kind of on the surface being expressed, he started to tune in to something more meaningful and relevant, which is to really hear these people's feelings and their needs, the needs underlying the feelings. And that's a really key distinction of nonviolent communication. It's one of Rosenberg's brilliant pieces. I feel because I need, right? He linked it to human needs and these and also there's work by my mentor Marie Miyashiro that also uses that same lens to link to organizational needs as well. So we're at that level with both the people and the organization, right? And yeah, that one shift transformed not just his energy, the CEO's energy, but his team, and really had a profound impact on their customer relationships. He told me that applying empathy has compelled them to work harder for their customers, and that their customer interactions are now helping them to grow their company, to solve problems, to innovate in a way that really feels mutual. And as he put it, I hope that working with us now is an experience they'll never forget. And he also told me that his team can see that he's in a good space now, way more calm, in his own words, not acting out anymore. So I'd like you to try an exercise, an empathy exercise, and I invite you to write it down on paper, or somewhere else on your device. And just first think of a recent moment. Take a few seconds. Think of a recent moment in your work life when you felt strongly about something. It doesn't have to be an upset feeling. It could be like a green flag, as I call them, a happy feeling, a pleasant feeling. But you could do empathy on either side, because empathy is connecting, in NVC we call it with what's alive, right? Which is how someone's feeling about how their needs are being met. So think of a recent moment. Hopefully you've got one. And what did you observe? What happened, like in time and space? What happened that triggered these strong feelings? Something happened. And so this is another beautiful NVC practice, getting clear about what the trigger was for the feelings. And then you can go on to step 2 when you're ready. What did you feel? You had strong feelings. Were they in the happy or the sad camp or the angry or the fearful? What what was it? What was your emotional body telling you? And when you have a feeling or two, now reflect, what need or value was underneath that feeling? When you think about the incident or the exchange, whatever it was, what were you needing or wanting that had you feel this way? And I'd love if you want to just put in the chat um, anything about like how that was for you to reflect back on that incident in those 3 specific ways. And then I want to take it one step further and offer you a sentence stem, and imagine yourself being able to share, even in a simple sentence to a colleague, what the heart of the matter of that was. Right? I felt X because Y is important to me. And if you're willing to put your sentence in the chat, I'd love to see them later. I felt X because Y is important to me. So take a moment. And we're almost out of time. Woo! Okay. I just want to say a little bit about 3x3 empathy factors. It's my favorite corporate empathy program. And yes, I'm biased. It was developed by my mentor, Maria Miyashiro, an internationally recognized organizational development expert and author of the book, The Empathy Factor. She's worked with over 1,000 corporate teams in more than 60 countries, crazy, including Global 500 companies. Since 2014, has been used to train over 55,000 employees. And I'm a part of an international cohort of trainers being certified in her program right now. And what I love
Fantastic.
and what I love about her work, oh, I'm out of time. Okay. It utilizes micro skills you can learn and use in just a few minutes, even in your busiest workday. Over time, they shift culture in powerful ways. And here's
Fact.
the vision. And then I have an offer. I'll put if you want to get some help and reach out, I'll put a link in the chat. And I also made a handout if anyone wants a handout. the exercise. So thank you, everybody.
Thank
So
you so much, Catherine. That was amazing for leading this conversation about conscious work of change in corporations and what it takes to build these empathetic cultures for team building, for trust building. And it does pay off consistently in game-changing innovations. In the chat are fantastic sentences you all came up with and ways to connect more with Catherine to have more of those conversations. Next, I get to bring up Ingrid. Ingrid Hertz, who is on the board of the Empathy Center and the Empathy Circle facilitator in training. Today, Ingrid is going to talk about the Phoenix, building the new chapter of the empathy movement. Take it away, Ingrid.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to see so many of you here. It encourages me because of what Edwin said and everyone before, what it really takes to change the culture. And there are some of you here that I've known for a while and I feel really close to because you became part of my life. And there are others that just know a little. And there are many, many new faces. And I'm excited that you're here because I want to contribute something to you. And I want to contribute something that you can take away today that from what I will be sharing with you. And so I'm guessing you're here because you're already part of the empathy movement as a participant of circles or as a trainer, or you're here because you would like to become part of the empathy movement because you're aware of the power of empathy. Or maybe you're completely new. You just found out about us, or you found us somewhere online or through a friend, and you're curious. Either way, I hope to show you a way how you can get involved. I want to encourage you to take the next step. If you have been on the fence, and I hope to convey to you that your engagement matters and that you're welcome with us in our movement. So thank you for coming. To tell you a little bit more about myself, I grew up in Vienna, Austria, moved to the US in 92, lived in Phoenix for 30 years, and 3 years ago, I came with Daniel, who is also here on the call, and two young children. In 92, we lived in Phoenix for 30 years, and then 3 years ago, I moved to the Bay Area. And so all my adult life, I have really been deeply involved in building models for a better world. First, I started a co-housing a community in Vienna that is still thriving, even though Daniel and I never became part of it. Then we started an alternative school that our kids attended for a few years, and then we had a business that had a very solid social impact component. It was a pay-as-you-can weekly community dinner that ran for over 10 years. And so you can see I put a lot of energy and resources and time in my life to explore a project that I believed were valuable models for a world where my personal humanitarian values were realized. But as you also probably have guessed, I have not changed the world yet, but still trying. So I have reflected quite a bit on these parts of me that, first of all, think that the world needs changing, and then secondly, think that it's me who has to do it. And I mean, that's besides the point. What I want to say is here in the empathy movement, I've really found a home. I've really found a place where I've landed. And there are a couple of reasons why I feel I have arrived. And one is that this is a bigger group which operates in a completely inclusive and egalitarian way, which is really important to me. And also, I don't have to do it alone. And the second reason is that I realize that we may not have those big results that I want to see in this completely different world where every person matters and is heard. I may not experience that in my lifetime, but and I'm not discounting that we may get there. I want to say that. So we may or may not. But what really is the difference for me here in the empathy movement is that while we are putting out all these efforts, I can enjoy myself. I can sit in empathy circles and I can be heard and I can receive the nourishment and the connection while I'm engaged in wanting to do something about the world. And that really makes a huge difference to me. So I want to share a few quotes with you, what people have said about empathy circles. And these are things that I personally have heard people say. So one person said, there's pleasure in understanding each other. And then another person said, it is an irresistible space because I can bring all of myself. Then another person, somebody who is here today, said, you go in raw and you come out cooked. Love this one. And then someone from Phoenix, and if you know Phoenix, you'll understand that one in a different way. She said, if it was raining empathy, it could rain for months and we still could use more. So now that kind of brings me to Phoenix. As I told you earlier, I've lived in Phoenix for 30 years and that, okay, so where is the, I don't know where my presentation is now. Anyway, so why Phoenix? Because I've lived here for 30 years and I've lived there for 30 years. I was still pretty connected. I can't really find my, okay. Can't find my, oh, here comes my helper. Can't find it. It's gone. This is Daniel.
We closed it.
Okay. Well, so I've lived in Phoenix for 30 years and both Daniel and I built communities there. I did it through my business. I had these weekly community dinners, and Daniel is a musician and he organized a lot of events and he taught classes. And because of that, we had a pretty big community. And when I moved to California, I really didn't have the community. But after I got involved with the Empathy Center and I saw a community building in Santa Barbara where we did a lot of in-person trainings, I had this thought, well, we can do this in Phoenix. And okay, can you see that now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we can.
So I brought to the team that we were going to bring the empathy movement to Phoenix. And I also was pretty connected to the NDC community in Phoenix. So the question is also, why now? And we all know right now is really a time where we need empathy more than ever before. People are craving connection and they don't always know how to find it. And the empathy movement is so basically we are needed anywhere we go. We will find a fertile soil for in any place where we go. So and how do we do that? What is really the base of the movement? And we use practices that build connection. We have kind of three main strategies. One is our empathy circles. They are a structured conversation where we take turns without interrupting, without debating, where we just are present to each other and we reflect the other person so that they feel fully heard. The other practice we use, or the other element that we have in our movement that builds this really solid ground, we train people to lead those empathy circles. And those facilitator trainings are, they are free and they enable people to lead their own circles in their own communities, in their workplaces, even in their families. And then the third kind of strategy that we use where you are right now, the empathy summits, where we bring in other people that are teaching or are public figures about the empathy in the field of empathy. We share what we have learned, and we invite people who just want to learn about it, but who are not quite ready yet to participate in a circle. So at this point, we've held thousands and thousands of circles with hundreds, maybe even 1,000 trained facilitators, and we are global. To our events, like we see at this summit, where we have people from all over the world, but also to our facilitator training, we've had people from besides the US, from South America, from Europe, from Africa and Asia, and they also hold empathy circles in their countries. So local chapters, we have one in Santa Barbara. I said earlier that in Santa Barbara, we had a presence for a while where we did several in-person trainings. So there's a pretty strong chapter there. Then in Phoenix, we actually started in February. And in the Bay Area, there's a chapter forming. We are driven by volunteers. And we grow organically. So we grow by people who find benefit in what we're doing, and I hope you do too. Okay, so back to Phoenix. How did we launch that? So this advantage of being in a community was that we were able to secure a free venue, which is all, as I said, our events are free, and so having the resources to bring in to use free spaces is really very helpful.
1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay. So we had we brought in 6 trainers. We had 12 participants in the first group. Several are still involved. I told you about Santa Barbara, where we have a strong group. And then I want to tell you, if you were to start a chapter, you would not be alone. We have a handbook, we have an organizer guide, we have templates for emails that you can send out, we have scripts. Like I said, we are non-profit. No one is paid. We do this because we believe in empathy. So what I'd like to do now is to invite you to join us. We have a training coming up next Saturday. Other ways to become part of the movement is to participate in a circle or to hold your own circle if you have been in a few. This is some information about the next event in Phoenix on November 8th. We call it Amplify Empathy. You find my email here if you want to know about it. It's also on Facebook. It will be on the calendar of our Empathy Center. Oh,
Fantastic.
okay. So about change, there are 2 pretty famous quotes. One is attributed to Margaret Mead, but it's not certain it's from her, but we all love it. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.
Mm.
I love this other quote. It's by a chemist, and obviously it applies to chemistry, but to atoms. But since we're all made of a bunch of atoms, I think it can be said about people too. When a complex system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the system to a higher order.
Mm. Thank you, Ingrid, for bringing water to the desert and empathy from Phoenix to the world. Connect with Ingrid to learn how to host your own circles or just share in this growing global network. I am so excited to bring up
If we could just
Masha
unshare. Oh,
Blazner.
there you go. Sorry. Wanted to get the. Okay, go ahead.
Fantastic. Masha Blaznik is coming back to speak with us again. Masha is a psychologist, independent researcher, and founder of the Empathy Based Society Institute, an initiative dedicated to promoting the purposeful development of empathy at both individual and systemic levels for people, animals, and the planet. Today, Masha is speaking on empathy movement, cultivating an empathy based society for personal and systemic change. Take it away.
Thank you, Kara. I will share my presentation. Okay, I think I cannot make it to the whole. I cannot make it full screen. Oh, I can. Great. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I am very happy to be part of this community and to explore and create with all of you how we can build an empathy movement. Today, I will share with you my thinking and my ideas because I have been thinking quite a lot about it also when I founded my own organization with the global vision, as Kara already told you. And I will try to address this through the next 5 questions. And these questions are, why do we want to build this movement? What do we want to address with this movement? How do we envision doing this? What do we plan to do? And at the end, what are the core values on which this movement will be founded? So I will just start. So the first question, why do we want to build this movement? And I argue, like people before me already mentioned, that we live in a world where is basically empathy crisis. And why I say this? I say this because we live in society that has normalized violence towards people, towards animals, towards nature, and towards the planet. And we built economic system on this logic. Additionally, we have placed ourselves, humans, at the center of this world, and we perceive all other beings and the natural world only through the lens of human benefit. How do others benefit my health, my comfort, my pleasure, or my profit? And in this context, empathy is not just a soft skill. Empathy is actually an evolutionary trait important for our survival and thriving. Plus, empathy in our brains switches off violence, and vice versa. Violence can in our brains switch off empathy. And that's why it's so important. That's why I also founded my organization, because I want to intentionally cultivate empathy and empathic practices so that we are targeting the normalization of violence in our society. And today we are firsthand experiencing what it means to live in a violent society, and we see the consequences. And the fact that this is not something normal and this is not something natural shows this data that in the past 5 years, there has been 4,000% increase in Google search for compassionate inquiry, which means people long for more empathy, more compassion, more this type of alternatives to their problems and issues. And so this brings us to the next question. What are we addressing? What do we want to address with this movement? And I invite you all to just think of your own ideas, your own suggestions. What do you think that we would address with this movement? I will share here things that I feel are important from my perspective. First is disconnection from self, isolation and disconnection from people, animals, nature, and the planet.
Masha, can I just interrupt? Your slides aren't moving forward. If you want to click on them.
Yes. Sorry.
It's presentation format.
Yeah, you need to be in presentation format. I can't read the language. There you go.
This is better.
Yeah, you're going to need to, yeah, there you go. There you go. That works.
So it will be, I will leave it like this, okay? So do you see now this is point 2? What are we addressing?
Yep, that's working.
Okay, great. So the third point that I feel it's important is consumerism and normalization of violence. And the fourth thing that I feel strongly about to be addressed is silence and compliance with the current systems globally, I mean. Because I think that this point is important because it brings us more clarity, direction. What do you want? Why do we want this movement? What do we want to achieve with it? So, but these are my suggestions, my views. The next point is how do we envision doing this? And the first thing, I see this movement as decentralized global movement, with pursuing bottom-up and top-down changes, meaning like that we promote empathy to individuals, to communities, to provide them with tools, with practices, with support, so that they can start using empathy, using empathic practices in their personal lives, with family, but also in their professional lives, in their community lives. And top-down changes, meaning in that context, I mean systemic changes through policy advocacy, governance, and so on. So the next thing, how I envision doing this, and Edwin already talked about it before, is network building. So connecting organizations, NGOs, nonprofits, businesses, individuals, influencers, everybody that shares the values of this movement. Because like Edwin said, that through this we create shared identity and this collective power. Because even when we look at other organizations who are like technically pursuing different topics, for example, organizations that are working for social justice, for animal protection, for environmental protection, yes, maybe topic-wise, they are different, but at the core level, everybody is pursuing empathic connection and empathic practices. And if we make this connection clear, then we can realize that actually this empathy movement is so strong. There are so many people who are actually pursuing empathic practices. And I think this would be really beneficial when we start connecting in building network also from that perspective. And then the next point is education. I called it education art tech because I had no other idea. I was not very creative as change makers. Because in my experience, in my opinion, academia, education, AI, tech, media, these all fields are play vital roles in shaping our narrative, how we imagine the world, and how we share our discourse. And if we can communicate the value and the practice of empathy also through this field, I think it would be really, really powerful. And I recently, maybe last month, I listened to the interview with Godfather of AI, Dr. Jeffrey Hinton. He mentioned that he sees the need that AI has more inbuilt maternal instincts. Because AI should have more inbuilt care for humanity, because this is not the issue. And we all know that the basis of parental care is empathy. So all those, he does not necessarily mention empathy. He mentions maternal care. He's basically talking also about inbuilding of empathy in AI. And the last point is empowering individuals as agents of change. I earlier mentioned already this aspect, because when individuals see that they, as family members, as professionals, as community members, when they start seeing the value and potential of empathy, and they can become active agents, in that way, it can much easily and spread as decentralized idea, value, and practice. And we come to the point, what do we plan to do with this? And again, I separated it on individual level, community level, systemic level, how I see them on individual community level. Empathy circles are for me really powerful, and I see them on both levels. Also, development of self-empathy, because in my opinion, without self-empathy, empathy for others cannot be as effective and as profound. And then maybe we can find some empathy ambassadors. We can also teach people how to connect empathically and how to use empathy towards animals and nature. On the community level, there could be resources libraries so that people who are interested in doing this can get all the tools and information. We can host empathy events, and I mean that on in different contexts. And then there are human libraries. I don't know if this is English expression. This is when you go to library and you don't borrow a book, but you talk to a person. And then trainers, building networks and partnerships, and then systemic level changes, meaning top down. And then the core values that I mentioned earlier, I decided to add this slide because when I was discussing this topic with others, I realized, like Jody mentioned already on the beginning, that we can fall into a trap of assuming that we all agree what empathy is. But now we see that through media and that there is a lot of negative spin on empathy. There are also a lot of misconceptions about empathy. So I think this is one thing that really, when building this movement, it would be good to be clear on. And then align on values, some basic values that we want to share so that people get clear what we are pursuing. And as I mentioned before, when I talk about empathy, I always talk about self-empathy and empathy for others combined. I never just see empathy as empathy towards others, but I see it as synergy, necessary synergy for growth. So thank you very much. I'm complete.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. So 5 questions on how to build this movement. Why build the movement? What do we want to address? How do we envision this for the future? What do we plan to do? And what are our core values? I heard, as a conclusion to all of that, moving with empathy from benefits for me to benefits for we by empowering individual agency and networks of impact. That chef kiss delicious. Thank you so much. Felicia Darling, I get to bring Felicia Darling up. Dr. Felicia Darling, a professor at UC Berkeley. Hello and welcome. We're so glad to see you again. Felicia is the author of
Can you hear me though?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The author of Empathy Unchained, Heal Your Trauma and Uplift the World. Already speaking my language. Today, Dr. Darling is going to take us from math circles to empathy circles, building a bottom-up movement. Take it away.
Thanks. And I'm only a lecturer at Berkeley, just FYI. All right. And everyone can hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad Masha went first. That was super helpful because I'm going to talk to you about a bottom-up approach that I use in my classroom. It's just one example that I use just as a point of her example. Like it can start anywhere. And so I'm using this diagram, which ChatGPT and I created. And you hear vision, inspiration up here. This is the top-down global empathy movement. And that's a lot what Masha was talking about, the vision, the inspiration, the big ideas, and that happens at a larger level. And then the global empathy movement, governments, corporations, that's Edwin with his big ideas and books and the empathy center. That's that. I think of that, it has some bottom-up parts too, but I think of that as up there. And I'm down here going to talk today about a bottom-up approach that could happen in churches, individuals, communities, local initiatives, schools, or families. It's like the education, art, tech, as Masha was saying. So ChatGPT and I created that. Anyway, so I'm doing one example of a top-up movement, or bottom-up movement, sorry, bottom-up. So I just want to go back up a little bit. So education this used to be the model. Here's the teacher in the middle. All the interactions were teacher, student, teacher, student, teacher, student, teacher, student. Now we've moved on to this model here, hopefully in many schools, where student to student, teacher to student. And you're like, where's the teacher here, right? There's the teacher, right? They're not the center. Everything doesn't go through them. And that's why we need more empathy, because teachers are facilitating more complex instruction that involves more interconnectedness. This is from my book. We move from this teacher pouring knowledge into students' flip-top heads, very kind of authoritarianism. It's called behavioralism, though, sorry. And then to this model where here's the teacher facilitating, students co-constructing instruction, co-constructing knowledge. You can see that's going to require a lot more empathy. Here's the teacher. Why do you think that? They're eliciting student input. I made the assumption that gender was the co-founding variable. Oh, I assume that income was the co-founding variable. You can see just the whole lack of empathy there, or the tendency to not need as much empathy and needing it a little bit more here. So I'm going to talk about my one example of a bottom-up, being part of a global empathy movement going bottom-up. And so I created this class called Playing with Mindfulness in Math. And it was for lifelong learners, so a lot of seniors in the College of Marin. And we talked about Mayan math, super exciting. They created a date in Mayan math. We talked about how different that felt. We talked about growth mindset. We did number talks and dot talks about recognizing numbers in indigenous cultures. We talked about real life math. Here's some real life spirals in nature, Fibonacci sequence. We talked about indigenous art and math, looking at patterns and shapes, more indigenous art and math. But the class that students loved the most, and I mean, I'm talking, we shifted from, that class is good, that was fun, to like they're moved by the class. We love this class. Like suddenly they're talking with their hearts. You don't always see that in math class. Was the empathy circle class. And in that class, we started out, I gave them a 15-minute, taught them what an empathy circle was, and very boldly said, okay, we're doing an empathy circle. Why? And then we talked about why is mindful speaking and reflective listening important in math discussions, or whatever is alive for you today. And we did that for 15 minutes. Then we watched this video. So I'm just going to kind of show you what we did in that class as my small example of being part of the global empathy movement bottom up. Then I showed this video where ants and humans did a particular task. I'm going to have to grab that video because for whatever reason I didn't cue it. I didn't. All right, where it is? Oh, good, here it is. I'm going to show you that video right now. It's tiny, it's 30 seconds, but I wanted you to see what they did in the class. So they went ahead and I'm going to have to open up the thing here and I have to share my screen. All right, stop that. There you go. I'm not talking to you. Not talking to the voices in my head either. All right, so I'm going to share this using some sound. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. It didn't let me share the sound. Where's that option? Here it is, share sound. Oh, Zoom has changed a bit. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to try to open this and make it as big as I can. So I want you to see kind of the experience they had. They had an empathy circle in this little video here before we did it.
Ants versus humans. This experiment was done to determine who has better problem-solving skills in groups. The task was for both ants and humans to maneuver a T-shaped object through a maze. Note that the humans were prevented from communicating with each other, replicating the same abilities as ants. The experiment showed that ants actually performed better in a group than humans. This is because the humans had a greedy solution approach in the group, where each human wanted to move the object in their own way, whereas the ants acted more as a colony, a single unified entity with a shared goal. Ants versus humans.
Okay, now we're going to stop that. We're going to try to stop it. Okay, so that's the video that we showed, and then I asked students, hey, what were your thoughts on that? After we did an empathy circle, and no one had ever done an empathy circle before, right? So we did an empathy circle, the ants versus humans, which they loved. I'm like, any thoughts on that? Could you all hear that okay? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, cool. And so put that in chat. And then we did what is a mystery number activity? Again, me and ChatGPT figured this one out. Or for those of you who want to be grammatically correct, ChatGPT and I did it. And And so I'm going to ask you all to play along with this what is the mystery number game, because I want you to kind of feel how different it is than some other math tasks that people might use, and how this math task in combination with a little video and the empathy circle might create more empathy in math class. Okay, so for this task, each person receives a clue. So I'm going to need 6 volunteers. And the goal is to figure out the mystery number by only orally sharing your clue. However, you're not allowed to show your paper or write in chat. You must describe it using language. So I'm going to go ahead. I think we have time, right? Yeah, we have time. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in chat. And I'm going to ask for 6 volunteers. I don't want to just pick you. So 6 volunteers, just quickly say yes, 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 yes. It's not going to be hard, but
Yes.
In chat. Wait, do I have no volunteers? Okay. I don't see any volunteers. Oh, there we go. Ingrid, anybody else? Daniel, thank you. Anyone else? Josh, thank you. Anyone else? Sally, okay. Gotta find those people. That's all right. We could use 2 more, but I'm gonna go ahead and start right now and I'm gonna give you, I think we can do this in the group. In the class, we did it just in small groups, but we're gonna try it here. Okay, so I'm gonna give each person a clue. Where are my clues? Here we go. I might give you 2 clues. I'm gonna give 2 clues because we don't really have enough. That's all right, people. So let's see, there's Ingrid. Thank you, Ingrid. Oh, Ingrid, let's see. I think I can just respond to Ingrid. Yeah, I think so. I think that's just responding to Ingrid. It's a little bit different than yeah, it's a little different. I don't know how to individually send someone a message in here. I think that's been turned off. Oh, yeah, it looks like that's been turned off. So I can't send, I should have checked that out ahead of time. I sent one to Ingrid.
Yeah, I didn't get.
Yeah, because I can't send it to you because the chat it doesn't allow it. Let me just try it again. Nope, doesn't allow it. I can only send it to the whole. Well, I can't play the game. That's too bad. But I'll tell you what the game was like. Each person gets a clue, like a number clue. I'm going to put them all. I'll put them all in there for everyone because it doesn't let me just chat with individual people. I should have thought of that. I didn't know that was a thing. Let's see. Does that go to everybody? Did that go to everybody? Yeah, your chat's set up so that I can't share it exactly correctly. I think it's different. I don't know. Can't do it. I don't know. So I'll just share I'll have to share them with the screen because it doesn't allow to do it in chat. All right, so here we go. So this is basically what it was like. So each student had 1 clue. For instance, the number is greater than 20, and they could only share that orally. Another student had the number is a multiple of 7. Another one had the number is less than 80. Another one had the number is not divisible by 5. The sum of its digits is 9, and it is an odd number. So the group could not figure out the answer without all those parts, without listening to each person's part instead of talking over them all the time. And so it was a really different activity that really forced them as a group. They had to quiet down and listen to the other person, and each person had to share their clue. And so in the end, in this case, the answer was 63. And the group had to come up with that on their own. And it was a radically different task than a lot of the group tasks that we've used in the past, because every single person's voice counted. Without every person's input, you couldn't do it. And it didn't help. You couldn't talk over them. They couldn't just write it down and just not contribute either. So anyway, so that's what we did. And in the end, that particular class, students loved it the most. The empathy circle plus this particular math activity that insisted that everyone have a voice and be heard created more empathy in the math class. And at the end, students hands down said, this was our favorite class. And when they said it, it was like with their heart instead of just like, oh, we love Mayan numbers, right? And people said, I didn't realize how much. One particular student who really did monopolize conversations quite a bit said, I didn't realize how much I was monopolizing conversations in earlier classes. And this person was kind of repentant and was like, wow, I wasn't really hearing people. Another person said, I worked really hard at listening to the other people in the class. And one, there was a class for people who maybe were afraid of math. So one said, I finally felt heard in math class. And I can't read the bottom one. I have my video there. We worked more collectively like the ants today, right? They love the ant video. So this is just one example of one bottom-up, one contribution of one teacher in a classroom impacting students. It's kind of like what Masha was saying, trying to get everybody involved and cross-pollinating and stuff instead of just having it all be so separate. And it's my example, right? It's just what I did. And I feel like people can do stuff at home, empathy circles or whatever they're doing, school, meetings, at your job, grocery store, on the drive home, right? Instead of flipping people off, right? You could be, you could do something there too. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for these little points, a lot of different points of really bottom up empathy moves that people can make that can contribute to the global empathy movement. And this is just my one example that I shared with you today because I felt like it did contribute to the empathy movement, even though it's not big in vision and a top-down thing, but it's what I can do in the context of my life that can impact others and bring empathy circles to them and empathy to them. So anyway, and that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Masha.
You're muted, Kara.
Here I am just chatting with you all silently. Love that. Dr. Darling, you're amazing. That was fantastic. I always get delicious things from you. I heard vision from the top down and activity from that bottom up. And in that activity, facilitation and co-creation requires a lot more empathy than those older traditional models. It's much easier to not have empathy if you're commanding and controlling somebody. Yeah. I also heard empathy as a communication tool and how you used empathy and math together. I love that. Thank you so much. I now get the pleasure to introduce Kate Kamins, the founder of the Co-Method, co-creator of Full Circle, and a national leader in independent school communities. She brings 16 years of experience in social emotional learning, school culture, and education development. Today, she will be speaking on building the empathy movement in schools, reclaiming human connection in education spaces. Take it away.
Everyone, so nice to see you all. I'll screen share so we can get ourselves started. It's a fairly big topic to talk through in the amount of time that we have, but we'll go a little quickly and I'll do my best. Is everyone able to see the screen right now? Perfect. All right. So in terms of shaping the next generation and providing them with the skills to employ empathy when they're able, some of what we'll talk about is about schools, but more holistically, it's an enormous thing. If we're shaping schools, then we need, of course, to be shaping society because we're trying to shape how kiddos are engaging with the world around them. It's inherently going to be a little complicated. Because it's a holistic discussion, we'll break it up into two pieces. The first is structural support. So what does it mean for empathy to be part of the infrastructure of schools? And then the second is student support. The frame being that empathy is a human right, and we should all be able to activate empathy. And in order to do that, we'll need to make some shifts. If we're talking about empathy as infrastructure, we need first for the people who are responsible for teaching empathy to be able to experience that empathy. Teachers aren't able, of course, to be able to be empathetic leaders, empathetic guides, if empathy isn't a part of their daily experiences. If schools are underfunded, undersupported, unsafe places to be, and adults aren't explicitly supported, we can't expect teachers to be able to hold those empathetic spaces. It's just not a possible thing. We need to be supporting each educator as they move through their lives. Right now, the current social emotional landscape in terms of programs in the United States, there are other countries that do this much more solidly. Australia is a really clear example of this. There are Northern European countries that are doing this really nicely, where social emotional work is just embedded into students' programming in a way that feels really holistic. Our current social emotional landscape is much tighter. And there's much less space that's currently allowed in institutions for social emotional work. So right now, often social emotional programs are targeted So they're in singular spaces within schools, like now you have some social emotional time and it's bracketed as an individual thing. And it excludes adults. So usually it's the program for kiddos. It's great that it's for kiddos. So Dr. Darling's points were wonderful. This is what we need, and we need more of it. So ideally, what we have is holistic programming that extends throughout an institution and is part of students' constant experience, not just standalone programming. And it's programming that's inclusive of adults, not just teachers, but also staff members, administrators, parents, caretakers. Everyone needs to be able to experience what it's like to really be seen, heard, supported in order to be able to model that for kiddos. If programs continue to be siloed in individual places in schools, students' experiences with empathy programs really just rely on whatever number of minutes that day or week or month, or often just even a year, if that's all they get, is feels really tenuous. That one program has to be dramatically powerful for a kid to be able to internalize and then manifest what they've learned in every other moment of their lives. Much more effective is if it's just part of their experience constantly, if we help to make it like water for them as little fishies. So, if we are going beyond individual protocols like Empathy Circle are beautiful and necessary. Right? They're profound things that we need in our world. And it's not just positive affirmation that's going to form students' brains and our own brains. Right? So, for example, I'm on the third point down right now. Positively experiencing an empathy circle is really important, but also being able to access empathy in negative experiences is important too, because the negative experiences are going to wire their brains much more quickly than the positive experience as well. That's how we survive as a species. For students, social connection, especially social connection during individuation, when they're starting to establish a separate sense of self, a sense of self as distinct from their families of origin, is enormous. So, to make it so those social interactions happen in ways that are ideal, or repair can happen in ways that are ideal, students have to be supported, kids have to be well supported. And we'll come back to some of this in a little bit. I just want to note there is often conversation about teacher quality, and it feels like it's important in my role as an ambassador to educators to combat that a little bit. The pipeline in terms of talent for teachers, specifically in public schools, remains really consistent. There was a slight drop off during the pandemic, as there was with many things. So fewer people applying to be teachers, fewer teachers who are available for hire, and those numbers have since come back. Teacher quality is really multidimensional, multifactorial. It's a complicated thing. So I don't mean to be too reductive with this, but just if we're looking at tangible measurements of quality of employable educators, and if anything, if we are looking at data since the 2010s, including the pandemic era, and so bringing us back now to sort of the current era of how things are in 2025, research finds that new teachers' academic caliber is improving. If we're looking at SAT and ACT scores, people intending to be educators and who are becoming educators. Skipping down to the final point now, the one point that counters this a little bit is just that it can be hard sometimes during licensure for teachers to pass on the first try licensing tests. And so ideally, we have teachers who are able to pass on the first try, maybe preparing a little more. But all in all, teacher caliber is strong. Structures for teachers, though, tend to be a little bit weak. Teachers are trying to be teachers in spite of the fact that there are many factors against them. And I think this is important for us to keep in mind all the time. If you are becoming a teacher, you are in it for the income, not in it for the, sorry, opposite. You are not in it for the income. You are in it for the outcome. These are people who are doing the most important work, in my opinion, that they can possibly do against enormous risks. So risks of school shootings, which are enormous, identity harassment, particularly for people whose identities are marginalized, which creates professional and personal risk, political pressure, so that material and classes that has always been standard is becoming increasingly politicized, low pay, cost of living gaps, making it hard to buy housing in places where people often teach, staffing shortages, which puts enormous amount of pressure and enormous hours on teachers' plates, burnout, lost autonomy, mental health strain, enormous pressures for teachers. Still, teachers and great teachers are doing the work. People who are facilitators are people who are coming in with really strong hearts, who are caring about kiddos. And I'm spending some of our very precious time on this point because of the fact that it can be really easy in political conversations, which education is, and education in many ways is inherently political, to forget about the role of who teachers are beyond just being teachers themselves. They are people who care very deeply about kids and are willing to risk a lot. I'm making that point because one of the only ways to make the empathy movement work in schools holistically is to advocate politically on teachers' behalves, on behalves of schools themselves. And so it feels worth spending a little time to think about how it is that teachers are actually living in their lives, afraid often of being shot in their classrooms. As a first point of most importance, afraid that their identities might be outed and that they and their families might be at risk, their livelihoods might be at risk, which is a secondary point, etc., so that we can know that these are people who are often literally putting their lives on the lines to help kids. And what that means is that we can put some political capital, sometimes donation dollars, on the line to be able to help them do the work of creating empathy in schools. Every teacher has energetic responsibility in their classroom space. And what that means is that the teacher is the center of the energy. All of the energy starts with the teacher, and all of the energy lands with the teacher. If the teacher is having an off day, the kiddos are having an off day. It is often just that simple. What that means is that if a teacher is coming into a classroom space without the supports they need to be able to access their fullest self, their most empathetic and available self, then the kids aren't going to have that modeled for them, and the kids won't experience the feeling of being met in a really deep way. We want the kids to know what it is like to have grown-ups who are really holding them the way they deserve to be held. And the way to make that happen is to support the grown-ups who are responsible for doing that work. I'll argue always that empathy is a human right. And so we're moving to the second section of things, not just empathy as infrastructure, but empathy is something that kiddos really deserve to feel all the time. Kids need to have us as emotional regulators. We know this is true when they are tiny little people and they are toddlers. It is still very true when they are big people and they are in college. And it's true for us, not even as kids. We need to have our emotions met and held by other people who are emotionally capable of doing exactly that. And the only way to do that is to make that feeling available for the people who are responsible doing the holding. If we want to equip the next generation with the ability to experience empathy, to live empathetically, to employ empathy in their lives, we have to protect their peace and model empathy for them. So the path is doing those two things, like protect the peace that they have and model the empathy as adults. A big part of this is making sure that kids are not on screens, ideally at all. Because of the fact that one of the biggest factors in our world right now, keeping everyone from being able to connect with one another, is technology and the constant dopamine and reassurance and anxiety fueling, anxiety abating rush of what it is that happens in the technological world. The less kids experience that technological world, the more their brains are able to wire the way they're meant to be wired. If we're looking at a spectrum of content stimulation, at the lowest end is static screen work. So this is not advocating for kids not writing essays on computers. At the highest is graphic content that's stimulating sexual or survival responses like pornography and violence. I would consider focusing at the second highest, this penultimate point right here, high stimulation, fast feedback content that's really problematic because it rewires our brains so tremendously quickly. If we're defining that, it's content that moves at a visual tempo that's really rapid. So every 1 to 3 seconds, there are scene changes, audio features are layered on top of each other, and the algorithmic delivery happens really quickly and often without a user's explicit choice. If we are looking at how neural pathways connect, this is a simulation in a petri dish with a chemical activator to make it so that we can visualize this. But if we're watching how it is that axons are moving and how neural pathways are being formed, we know that the things that fire together, the things that make our neurons fire, are the things that create wiring that's stronger. The more students' brains experience stimulation for negative firing or negative wiring, then the more capable they are of going back to those things, the more the associations are positive, the more capable they are just on a physical level of going back to those. If we're thinking about exactly this, and sorry I'm going so fast, hope it's okay. If we're thinking about exactly those, I'm coming back to this point from earlier, both positive and negative events are going to help us wire. And we want to avoid the negative events. So often our brains are going to connect for us around what it is that we've learned is not working well for us, what creates a negative chemical reaction for us, so we don't have to feel that feeling again. If we're thinking about what kinds of feedback make that the case, social responses are really enormous. And so if we take the example of a kiddo who tells a joke that their friend group doesn't like, the brain might register that social rejection or those micro cues in a way that makes it so that they're behaviorally adjusting. The more we behaviorally adjust and the less neural pathways are firing around that behavior because we're doing it less, the more those neural pathways are weakened and the less they come into existence. I don't always love the framing of the education system as broken. I think it's really problematic and sort of fuels a political narrative that it needs to be privatized. But I'm saying this from the perspective of a system that isn't supporting adults, because right now our education system is not supporting its educators. So lots of people say we can't fix a broken system. I would say we can't not. Education needs to be available publicly at really high qualities. This Anais line is always a lovely one. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. We are there in many ways with education. Kids deserve much higher quality education than they're able to receive. Again, not at all based upon the fault of teachers. Teachers are qualified, teachers are wanting to do the work, and they are doing it against enormous obstacles, but largely against funding and support from other adults in their world. When we're thinking about what we can do, one of the primary things we can do is be responsible for watching out for kiddos in our worlds. So it's on teachers, of course, but also on every single adult in every single child's life to be watching how they are doing as humans and making sure that they aren't falling into internet holes that are really problematic and radicalizing them, that they aren't in mental health places that are dangerous for their well-being. I'm moving on quickly, but it's one to screenshot if you feel like you need it. If we're thinking about ways to engage and what we can do, some of this is personal, like Dr. Darling was saying, like the personal and the immediate, it is like staying local in our political communities is enormous. It's some of the biggest effect we can have. We are doing the Candide work of tending our gardens. So keeping kids off screens, noticing how they were doing. The more political work, and this is the first part of our conversation I'm coming back to from the third bullet point down, is what we need to do to make that holistic change possible. We have to fund safety so teachers aren't afraid of being shot in their classrooms. We have to raise pay so increasingly the talent, I love when that happens, increasingly the talent pipeline is full of qualified people. We have to protect teacher time so they're not just writing nonsense lessons to be approved or jumping through nonsense hoops. They have time to repair and recover and become more empathetic themselves. We have to keep politics out of classrooms with the exception of human politics, like protecting people and who they are as people. We have to show respect for teachers, which means advocating for them in all spaces. Again, that's why we
1 minute.
spend some time on how qualified they are, because teachers need to be supported in dinner table conversations so that other adults are voting in politicians who are going to support them. We need to support well-being for kids and adults, make housing possible in expensive areas, and then grow the pipeline of teachers. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Am I unmuted? I am. Good. Thank you. This was a big topic, right? So shaping the next generation to engage empathetically. I hear that we love this and we need more. We need more social emotional modeling across generations, both in and out of school. Less blame, more action. Yes. One of my kid mentors. Do you guys have this like little tiny humans in your world who drop bombs and you're like, I didn't know I was the student today. Thank you for that. So one of my tiny mentors said, children who learn to ride the waves of emotions become adults who don't drown in them. From the mouth of babes. Thank you so much, Kate. That was amazing. Thank you. Okay, what we're going to next bring up Catherine Caden, but she is in Bali and fell ill. So Catherine is a mom, educator, storyteller, dancer with over 30 years of experience. She brings innovative programs into nonviolence, mindfulness, and conflict transformation to people from ages 6 and on and over continents. So today, her partner Jesse sent us a recording sharing on empathy movement and first responders. And I'm gonna look at my tech crew because they've got this going on for
Okay,
us.
I'm gonna. Is that showing up?
It is. Thank you.
Okay, I'm playing that off of my computer. It's a 20-minute piece, so we're going to cut it to 15. So at some point, it's going to abruptly stop at the top of the hour. So let me play it. Here we go.
Welcome everyone to
No.
this session on empathy first.
You're not probably not hearing that. The audio. Put that up.
welcome everyone to this session on empathy first responders. My name is Jesse Weems Chu.
And I'm Reena Janwala from India. Right.
Just checking, are you hearing that?
Yes, I can hear it.
Bali.
And I'm living in Indonesia right now as well, and but originally, of course, from the United States. So in today's session, what we wanted to do was introduce you to the idea of empathy first responders, share some examples of what that can look like, and give you some specific practices of how you could implement being an empathy first responder in your own life. The first moment I remember this term coming into existence was when I was with my wife, Catherine Cadden, and we were in Maui. And she tells the story much better than I could. So I recommend, if you want the detailed story, to check out her TEDx talk on direct action in love, where she shares the story in more detail. But the short version is we were driving in Maui, Hawaii, and we came across a scene where a couple had just hit a pedestrian on the road, and the woman was laying on the road, and the couple was in a fair bit of shock, sitting in their car with their windshield shattered. And at that time, my wife Catherine jumped out of the car that we were in and invited us all to help. We were with a couple of friends, and we went, and she immediately, after doing a quick assessment of the condition of the person who was hit and recognizing that medical first responders were on the way to attend to the woman, she immediately made an empathic connection with the couple driving the car, because there were actually people from the park above shouting angry words at the couple. They were getting a lot of blame and judgment from the people who were upset about them hitting the pedestrian. And the couple in the car looked frozen and terrified. And so Catherine just began to connect with them, offering them compassion, saying things like, "I'm guessing this wasn't how you expected your day to go. I'm guessing it's really scary when that happened. And I'm guessing," and then she made some other guesses. And you could see as she made those guesses, the couple started to soften and be able to access their words, their tears. And where the term empathy first responder came about was when the medical first responders did show up on the scene. In addition to Catherine sharing with them what she could recognize immediately from her own medical first responder experience, she also shared with them, and she introduced the couple to the medical first responders and said, and they also are in shock and could use some electrolytes. And what she said, sorry, I forgot the key piece there. She said, "Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm an empathy first responder. And this couple is in shock and they could use some electrolytes also." So that was the first time I heard that term being spoken. And what Catherine did in that moment, which we want to talk about in this session, and that any one of you can do, is bring that basic level of human compassion and care to any situation, even situations that may seem like only a situation for physical first responders.
Yeah, I really appreciate that term, Jesse, that Catherine coined in that moment. Empathy as a key component in that moment of crisis, and which puts us, in all of us who even observe something like that, into survival mode. So, our fight, flight, freeze reactions are very active. And then empathy is a key kind of, piece there where the energy shifts. And then the first responder is also, I see that as like there are reactions all around. As you said, there's blame, there's fear, and self-blame as well. I'm guessing, the couple were in shock because they had hit somebody who was hurt. So self-blame, others blaming you, and then there is this response in when there are reactions all around. So that term makes a lot of sense now as I listen to you, and I'm in touch with my experiences as a empathy first responder. And as I say that yeah, I am an empathy first responder, there is some kind of vision that I'm in touch with, some sense of purpose that makes meaning and that gives me the energy when otherwise there can be overwhelm. Because in India, there's so much happening constantly, the chaos and beauty of chaos as well. I don't mean it in a negative way, but like there is, can I give some examples?
Of course.
At the moment, I think that's where I'm leaning to that. Like I take a lot of train journeys, bus journeys. And as we're waiting at the bus stop, I remember once, I remember once a mother with two kids, and one kid tired and the other kid very active. And and then she was like, and then there's luggage to be taken care of. And I'm guessing there were other members traveling with her. But in that moment when I was sitting there, you know, what I saw was um, a family member coming with some expectations from the mother who was already overwhelmed with one child wanting to stay put and the other wanting to go somewhere. And then this person came and said something in an angry voice, that she should be kind of she should be handling things with more responsibility. Um, Maybe it was something around the food that she needed to give to the family, like if there was families always travel with packed food. So there was something around that. And I I saw this lady completely freezing to all these three demands on her. And as this elder person came and shouted at her about some instructions that she had missed following up on about serving food, um, I think I stood up to check with her if I could be there to hold the child or take the child just within her sight, So that was my first kind of response to connect with her and the child, to be of some support, and bring in that moment some possibility for her to. And in doing that, there was a part of me which was like confused about the man. But I kind of observed that in me and gave some self-empathy, like a deep breath, an exhale around the demands on the woman, and I just exhale, and that helped me to be more present. So that part, I'm so glad that I have that integrated, that as an empathy self-responder, self-care in my capacity, expanding my capacity is important in the moment. And then as the woman maybe trusted me to take the child to a shop just 10 feet away within her sight, I saw that that was my first kind of connection with her in empathy, silent empathy, to looking at her, leaning in with my body, and she kind of nodded.
Yeah, I like your example that you're bringing, and I think part of what it highlights for me is there's some simple principles and practices we can take if you would like to be an empathy first responder in your own life. And and I really want to emphasize that every single one of you watching this right now can be an empathy first responder in your community, helping to create and contribute to that basic sense of human care. So from Rena's example and from the example earlier, there's a few principles that I want to just highlight here. One is that one of the ways we can pay attention to where empathy can be needed in any given situation is where there is some sense of blame, shame, guilt. Those are very difficult feelings for any person to endure on their own. So whether it's the person you see being targeted with blame, or the person who you imagine is being the most blamed, or the person who's feeling the most guilt and shame in the moment, it's a great opportunity to just turn your light of compassion towards that person, whether silently or verbally. It could be something as simple as being in line in the grocery store, seeing a mother struggling with her children, and offering, as my wife has sometimes done when she sees a situation, turning to the mother and saying, sometimes it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just giving a big smile, right?
Yeah.
Or saying, you're doing great, mama.
Yeah.
It's a lot to juggle, right? Offering that moment of compassion.
Yeah, I think validating that you're doing great, mama, or that it's all right, because we put so much pressure on ourselves in our roles as caregivers or as men or women who are supposed to, be much bigger and much more than we consider ourselves as, so there's a lot of self-blame, self kind of judgment, so that's also where empathy first responders can bring ease and I guess dignity even, that that it's okay. In this moment you're doing the best you can, and that's a lot already.
And in conventional life.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jana, for posting the link to the direct actions of love into the chat so that people can see that. I learned that I am an empathy first responder and that any of us can be. Anyone who brings compassion and care into a moment of crisis is an empathy first responder. And I'm turning it over to another empathy first responder, our empathy circle host, Jonathan. Jonathan Gordon is an empathy circle facilitator and trainer and has been involved in the empathy movement for over 2 years. He is on our Summit volunteer team as well. Take it away, Jonathan.
Well, thank you so much, Kara. And I just want to thank all of the people that participated in making this event possible. It was just lovely hearing different approaches to empathy. So Edwin is setting up our breakout rooms, and everyone is invited to stay to actually participate in an empathy circle. And what I'm going to do is give a brief explanation of the circle process so that everyone can join the circle and feel comfortable participating in the circle. In a circle, in an empathy circle, everyone in the circle has an opportunity to speak. And when they speak, they are speaking to a active listener, or what we call a reflective listener. And when they're speaking, what they do is they speak in simple sentences or short paragraphs. And then the reflective listener they're speaking to reflects it back to them to make sure that the listener understood what they said. And then the speaker often will nod and continue speaking, or the speaker has the option of saying, no, you didn't understand me. This is what I really wanted to say. So the point is having authentic, connecting understanding between the two individuals. The process starts out with the facilitator being the first active listener, and the facilitator will usually ask for a volunteer to speak to them. And then when the 3-minute time is up, today we will be honoring a 3-minute time for each speaker. Then the active listener then becomes the speaker, and the process repeats itself, going around the imaginary circle or all of those people that are present, so that everyone gets a chance to speak and reflect. Now, while the speaker and the active listener are communicating, we have a number, everyone else present are the silent listeners, and they should not interrupt, and they should pay attention. And the wonderful thing about this is when it's your turn to speak, you can actually refer back to a previous conversation and make a comment on it. And this is a wonderful slowing down of the communication process. This is just a wonderful opportunity to hear an idea expressed twice. We just are just in too much of a hurry nowadays. And so the empathy circle slows things down so that you can think about it and you can respond appropriately. And I'll use the word respond lovingly and not in a hurry, not on a snap reaction. Each of our breakouts will have a facilitator, and they will be named, they've got a little ECF at the end of their name. And the facilitator's job is simply to keep the time. And I have my, this means a lot to me. This is my first little timing sign that I made 2 years ago, and I use it when I'm facilitating. And also, we have to consider that occasionally we have people that have hearing impairment. So sometimes sometimes we use a visual, and sometimes we use a verbal indicator. But the facilitator's job is to keep the time, keep things running smoothly. The facilitator also will make suggestions on who should go next to make sure that everyone gets an equal turn. Today's topic is related to what we've done today, and the topic is, what are your ideas and projects for building the empathy movement? And whatever is on your mind or heart. Edwin, are we about ready to go?
Yeah, we're just about set, making sure there's enough people in each room. And also, if you do not want to be recorded, if you could put NR after your name. So right now I'm not seeing anyone that doesn't want to be recorded. So the room I'm in will be recorded. So just let you know that. And yeah, so I think we're ready. You feel like you're complete? Jonathan?
I would add that when you arrive in the room, and if you have some personal business to take care of, or if you have to do some cat or dog policing or caring, you just turn off your screen and take care of your business and just come right back.
Okay, 1 minute here. So there's going to be, let's see, we have 4 rooms. The first room is with, let's see, is with facilitator is Jana will be facilitating. And 1 second, I'm still creating these rooms. Things are moving a little bit. And almost ready. Yeah, so in the one room, Ingrid will be facilitating, and I'll be in that room, and it'll be recorded. The second room, Jana will record. You'll be with Daniel, who's also facilitator. And then the next room is Jonathan. You'll be in one room, and then Bill in the next. And we have now, we're going for an hour. So at 10 after the hour, we'll come back and have a little bit of a debrief. So I think we're all ready, and here we go into our rooms. Oh, it looks like you're going to have to choose your room. Okay. You'll facilitate, Ingrid, and
Do I want to? Sure. Or did you ask me if I want to?
no,
Go.
demanding.
No,
It's just I'm doing sort of tech stuff too, and
oh,
this room is being recorded, just so you know. So looking forward to hearing everybody's ideas. Yeah. Go for it, Ingrid. Here.
oh, so you do want me to facilitate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you put it in chat again, too?
Okay, let me get my timer going. Where's my timer? 3 minutes, we said, right? Would anyone here like to ask a question about the process, or were the instructions pretty clear? Any questions?
At the topic.
The topic is in the chat, so I'm gonna read it again. What are your ideas and projects for building the empathy movement? 3-minute turns. I'm gonna be your first listener and kind of model it a little bit, even though we have a number of very experienced people here. And who would like to be the first speaker? Any volunteers for speaking?
Go ahead.
Josh, thank you so much. So I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes, and then it's on my phone. I'm going to kind of wave it a little, and you might also hear the sound. Go ahead.
So I have, just to clarify, I have 3 minutes, and you want me to speak on
Yes.
how we can grow the empathy movement, if
But-
I understand correctly?
Yes, but within these 3 minutes, you're going to speak in short chunks, and I'm going to reflect back to you. But between you being the speaker and me being the active listener, the term is going to be 3 minutes.
All right. So the first thing that came to mind, and by the way, I want to thank the leaders for putting this together. It's really been excellent. The first thing that came to my mind is that, empathy, empathic connection doesn't happen all at once. It's not like you just turn it on, like you flick the light switch and everything goes on. It's more like there's a dimmer switch. There's more like the water's a little cold, like it is in Lake Michigan right now, where I live. And you start to wade out. And as you go a little further, it takes a while for your body to warm up to it. And I think that if we want to build empathy with, let's say, strangers, in this case, we don't know each other. I don't know anybody. I have a sense of, okay, I want to proceed gradually and make sure that it's safe. So I'm testing the waters.
Okay, well, what I hear you say is that, first of all, you wanted to express your gratitude to those who put this summit together. And then you were sharing an insight how empathy can be something that happens gradually. And that is also important for you because you're new here and you just kind of want to feel it out and get used to the process as you feel more safe and comfortable.
Well, so I think you did a good job, but you missed a point, which is that I feel not just for me, I feel that in general, I'm extending this not just to myself, but my sense of uh, of what it takes to create empathy is that it requires testing the waters, making sure that it's safe before going further. And and I come to that because yes, my own experience, but also because my sense of empathy has to do with realizing that if I feel something, then it's likely to be in common with other people. So that's how I arrived at that.
Mm. So you also wanted to be heard that this gradual experience of empathy and gradual growth doesn't apply just to you personally, but you see that happening on a bigger scale. And you think that what you experience is something that others experience as well, that there is this testing the water and having to go slowly in the rhythm how we feel safe.
Yes, I
When your
think that's
time is
correct.
up, do you feel heard? You feel
Do I
heard?
feel heard?
Yeah,
Yes, I feel heard. Thank you.
wonderful. So the way how this goes is the listener, which was me, becomes the speaker and selects a listener. And I'm gonna ask you, Jessie. It's so good to see you, Jessie.
Nice to see you.
Will you be my listener?
Sure.
Um, well, I think the summits are pretty amazing in bringing so many new people. And while I don't have much capacity to actively work in it, I really want to make sure that I bring more people, that I'm more active in promoting it.
You think the summit is a really good opportunity to bring new people, and you also want to be more actively involved into the empathy movement to bring new people. So it looks like the summit encourage you to bring more new people.
Yeah, so I see that there are in all the promotions, I see two different strategies. One is to really connect with people personally and almost hold their hand and ask them again and again to come.
So you see two strategies to connect and bring people in. One is to really personally connect, hold them hand by hand to bring them in.
Yeah, and I've experienced with a few people that I had to invite them, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 times until they finally came. And then they were so happy to be there.
So you had experience with several people now that you have to invite them 7, 8 times, and eventually they come and you're happy with the result.
Yeah. And then there's the other approach to just send something out to everyone you know, and to everyone I know, send something out to everyone on my email list, post it on my social media. And that is the one I neglect a little. I don't feel as comfortable with.
The other one is to take all the opportunity you have in social media, in personal contact, just send as much invitation as you can to everybody you can reach. So have more exposure for more people to hear about it, to learn about it. and eventually will reach somebody who is interested to come.
Yeah, but I notice in myself, I feel uncomfortable with those blanket emails. For me, that being personal with people is so important, and it's so hard for me to send out something that goes at the same time to friends, and then to really close friends, then to not so close friends, then to acquaintances, and then to people I may not even know. It's hard for me to do that.
So you personally didn't feel comfortable about the blank email to people you don't even know through friends and friends. And you're more comfortable with the circle you know people, you understand people.
Yeah, so my time is up. Thank you. I feel heard, Jesse. And so it's your turn to pick a listener.
Great. Somehow my screen didn't show all the people.
You don't see the other people?
Yeah, maybe I need to change screen.
Yeah, if you go on view and then you click on gallery.
Okay, now
you
I
see
see it.
everybody.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. How about Felicia?
Okay, I'm gonna start the timer.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. I have been practice empathy circle about 1 year now, and I'm really happy to be back in this summit.
So you've been practicing the empathy circles for about a year, and you're really happy to be back here at the summit.
I've been asking myself the same question, what is the empathy movement? And every time I practice, I go into the empathy circle. In Santa Barbara, we have a local chapter, which is a really great group of people that can practice.
So you ask yourself that same question that Ingrid was asking, what is the empathy movement? How can you make the empathy movement happen? Because you go to a local chapter, which you really like in Santa Barbara, to practice empathy circles.
Yes. Yeah. So when I first started, I didn't know anything about the empathy. I never looked up the definition about empathy. But each time I participate in empathy circle, I learned something new. So to today, I would say empathy movement to me is it need have a structured environment for people to open up their mind to get connected with each other mutually.
So, so you said that you started and you didn't really look up the definition of empathy at the beginning, but each empathy circle, you learn new things about the empathy movement. And now you're landing on kind of it needs a structured environment for people to be able to open up their minds and to open up.
Yeah, feel safe and feel mutually heard, mutual access for speaking and listening. I outside of the circle, I tried the empathy practice with people, and it doesn't seem to work.
So you're to continue on that. It needs an environment where people feel safe, where they feel some sort of mutual connection, where they feel heard, but they also have opportunities to speak and to listen and to be listened to. And you're saying that when you're outside of the empathy circles, you're trying some of those moves, but they're not landing quite the same way.
Yes. Somehow, when the structure is not there, the mutuality was not there, and the opportunity to connect with each other is not the same. So my time is up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I feel heard.
I'll repeat what you said though.
Okay.
Without the structure, you're feeling like without that structure being there, the mutuality is not there, and the opportunities for connections just not so easy to facilitate. It's not there as much either.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
I feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn then. Okay, whatever.
Yes.
Oh, I have to pick somebody.
Mhm.
Dana. How about Dana? Okay, thanks. So out of practice. Okay, so I guess for me, just to promote a global empathy movement, starts at home. I think the first thing I need to do is to reduce some of the suffering that I endure in my life and at my job.
To promote a global movement, you need to start at home and reduce uh, the suffering at home.
Yeah, not at my house, but at work. Yeah.
At work.
Yeah. But that my home being my home sphere I'm talking about. Yeah, and so and then I still like this idea of continuing. So I teach math. Maybe now I'm going to get a master's in linguistics. Whatever I do, I'm very centered around work. And I want to continue to bring the empathy circles into work. I do PDAs at my own job right now around empathy circles, how you can use them at work. So I think that's my role in the global empathy movement, is just to reduce my own suffering and to bring empathy circles into as many environments as I have influence over.
Need to bring empathy at work. You use math, and I'm sorry, I totally lost you.
Yeah, I just want to continue whatever I do for work, since work is a core part of my life. I want to reduce my own suffering, but also continue in as many ways as I can to bring empathy circles. Either I'm helping people to see how useful it is for them, they go to facilitator training, or I'm working with students and bringing empathy circles into whatever classes I teach. I think that's where I can help the global empathy movement, reduce my own suffering, bring it into the workplace.
Reduce your own suffering and bring it into the workplace.
Yeah. Okay. It's a little bit like yoga. Like, I love yoga. It makes me feel good, but I never do it. So I became a yoga teacher. Same thing with empathy circles. I love them when I go there, but I never go there. And so then I became a facilitator. So at least I'm close to it now, because now it's related to work. Yeah.
It's like yoga. You enjoy doing it, and you enjoy being a facilitator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Would you like me to add to the reflection, Felicia?
No, I don't care.
Okay.
No, it's okay, because Dana's trying and I talk fast and I'm in a different realm than her in terms of whatever. But yeah, so no, it's fine. But thank you. Thank you for caring. And thank you, Dana, for reflecting.
I pass. I'd rather not.
Thank you. Dana, you would like to not be a speaker?
I prefer not to.
Okay. Well, thanks for being a listener, Dana. I appreciate that you participated. Does somebody else want to go and be a speaker next?
I will, since I haven't spoken, and I hear Dana didn't want to be a speaker, so I will just reflect that. And
Okay.
and I will select
listener.
Josh to speak to. Okay, you're still muted.
Sorry, I had to turn on my.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so for building the empathy movement, I was sort of thinking of what you were talking about, that you and other people need to develop trust and sort of in empathy, it sounded like. But I think that people are going to need to develop trust in the empathy movement as well, so so you kind of, your idea sort of sparked kind of the bigger picture that the empathy movement needs to work in such a way that the community, others develop trust in the movement. Yeah.
So I heard you say that you understood that I felt a need to develop trust, and it sparked your maybe your thinking that it connected with a sense of how the movement itself needs to progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the movement needs to develop trust, and right now, I would say there's a lot of conservatives. There's all those books that were mentioned, or kind of coming from the conservative right, that they don't trust empathy. So it's like a big part of it, building the movement is how to develop trust with them around what empathy is.
I hear you, Edwin, reflecting the sort of current political media environment, particularly from authors who are, well, I'll just use your words, who don't trust empathy, who, and so the question might be that you're asking is, well, how can those people be brought in? Did I get that correct?
Yeah. How do we have them develop trust in the empathy movement? Because right now they're not trusting it. And I think
Yeah.
one way is that we actually go to where they are, to go to their conferences with our empathy tent. And we just sit there and we say, hey, we're willing to listen to you. Come and talk to us. We will listen to you. And we've done it in the past. And I think that's what we'll need to do in the future, to go out to communities that don't trust the movement, to build trust by listening to them.
So your sense of how to approach this question of creating empathy with those who are not trusting in it would be to go to where they are, their conferences, to put up an empathy tent and offer to listen. And in the past, you've been able to do so, and you feel in the future this is a good way to reach out to communities who don't trust the empathy movement.
So the way to
Edwin, your time was up.
Okay, I feel heard. Thank you.
Oh,
Josh,
I guess it's my
pick a
turn then.
listener. Yeah, if you want to pick a listener.
Well, you listened to me the last time, so maybe I will go with Jesse. Do you want to listen to me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, great. So I want to talk about a little bit about my own experience with empathy work. And I'll just sort of qualify or broaden that by saying my own experience with practicing empathy. Because although I worked as an empathy trainer for 3 years in my previous job, I learned, or maybe intuitively grasped, that I would have to be vulnerable, and I should be as vulnerable as everybody in the classroom, or even more so. And so, in doing so, I just candidly admitted that I am not the empathy expert in this room. Everybody has their own experience with empathy, and that I'm learning too, and that I regard empathy as a practice of both vulnerability and I don't know, maybe just de-expertizing yourself. I don't know what it is,
And it's a lot to.
I'm sorry, I go on long.
Okay, so you like to speak up empathy experience yourself. You've been involved as an empathy facilitator in the classroom for 3 years. And you have to admit that even with that much of experience, you still feel as vulnerable as the group you involved with. And you are still exploring the process, trying to be understand the process and how to be more effective.
Thank you for dealing with my long expositions. So I I I I was hired to do empathy training. We call it empathic inquiry, and um, the sort of the goal of this training was to help people recognize that the people that they're connecting with are actually the experts in their lives instead of the the person, you know, instead of the so this is sort of a client and agent. Is it all the way up? So in the client agent relationship, um, the client is the expert in their own lives, not the agency.
So it seems like you're a little bit exhausted trying to employ empathy techniques or as a tool to handle your client. And you are still trying to explore the possibilities, how to engage empathy into your institutional work.
Thank you, Jesse, for listening to me. I appreciate your concentrating on what I was saying.
You have probably another chance to explain it a little more. And then there's going to be another round, Josh.
I'm not worried.
Jesse, would you like to pick a listener?
How about Edwin?
Okay, listening.
Okay. Yes, I personally feel empathy circle itself has a lot of potential.
Yeah, you're really seeing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the empathy circle has a lot of potential.
Empathy circle, yes, and I am trying to find ways to incorporate empathy circle techniques in my life and in my work, and I'm still exploring. Like Josh was saying, that how to sometimes feel a little bit disappointed when outside of the circle people were not engaged.
You're looking at how to incorporate the empathy in your life, and you get kind of disappointed because outside of the empathy circle, people don't have sort of a empathic relationship.
Yes. So I've been thinking about my own experience with empathy circle, why it's so effective. And I've been contributed to the structure Edwin being developed. And I think empathy movement should start with effective structure to have invite people to experience it.
I'm sorry, I think a coughing fit.
It's okay.
Maybe Ingrid can
Would you like me to? Would you like me? Yeah. So Jesse, you're disappointed that you can't, that you're not finding ways to incorporate the empathy circle or even empathy in your everyday life. But that makes you realize that it is really the structure in the circle that is so effective, and that it's the structure that makes it work so well that we have in the circle.
Yes. So I haven't been involved into the empathy tent yet. I don't know how effective that is, but I really think to building the empathy circle in local chapters probably is a good way. And I haven't been involved too much online, although some people in Santa Barbara are saying that online circles are very good because they sometimes can talk to people around the world.
Yeah. So you have not been involved with the empathy tent, but it's something that interests you. It's a powerful tool to go to the community. And you have also heard some people from your Santa Barbara community that they go to the online circles, and they have shared that these online circles are a way to connect with the wider community, with the global community.
Yes.
So it sounds like you're thinking you might explore that.
Yes. So from my previous
Yeah, your time was up, but if you have a short thought, feel free
yes,
to share it.
sure. Thank you. From my previous experience in business, I just feel the way of adopting the way of reaching your target client is very important. In this way, we are trying to reach everybody. We don't have any target client, but at least the people who are interested into empathy is the one that we're trying to reach the first.
Yeah, and because of your business experience, you know it's very important to know who your target client is and to focus on reaching them.
Yeah, thank you. I feel hurt. Sorry about Edwin.
Edwin, are
Yeah,
you
sorry, I
okay?
had this coughing fit. You get that little tickle in your throat. Oh, can I speak to Dana? Would you be willing
Yeah.
to listen? Okay. I'll start. I had a tickle in my throat and it just got worse and worse and kind of went into a coughing fit. If you want to reflect that.
That you were coughing and
Yeah, it started with a little tickle, like, oh, there's a little tickle here, and just kind of got worse and worse. And yeah, I've had that happen sometimes.
yes.
Usually a little bit of whiskey is the best, but I just took a cough drop. So
You get that you get a tickle and you start coughing, and sometimes whiskey or something really strong will help.
mhm. Yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about is like how do we finance the the empathy movement. And Jesse, as someone who does impact investing, that we're going to be meeting, I think, next week. So I think that's another part of building a movement is how do we, finance the movement. So that's a big question for me.
So you're thinking of ideas of how to finance the movement, and you'll be talking to Jesse about that. You have some ideas.
She has an impact investor that wants to talk with us. So,
Oh, impact
um,
investors. Okay.
so what? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that means, but very curious. So it'd be nice to get, wealthy people and have some kind of an income generating process for financing it, especially if we could have financing for training, and then trainers could, have an income for holding empathy trainings. So anyway, there's something to think of. That's a lot of thought. I think a lot about that.
So thinking about, yeah, I'm not good at this.
Mm. You were excellent. Yeah, I hear you're feeling you're not good at it, but
Yeah,
I felt very heard actually.
I
So
appreciate that. I
I feel
appreciate
very
that.
heard. And yeah, so I just the finance part, I'm just kind of wondering about. That's kind of my main
Yeah, finding wealthy people.
mm, and workshops, things like that, maybe. Yeah. So I
And
feel very heard.
workshops.
So thank you, Dana. It's your
I
turn.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Dana, you're welcome to speak if you want to.
I would rather not.
Okay. Would you like us to listen to you silently? Take your time and we're just with you.
No, please carry on.
Okay. We will do that. Thank you for being here, Dana.
Mhm.
Who would like to speak next? Felicia.
I want to speak because I want to
Speak a
speak to
listener.
Dana. Can you hear me? Oh, a listener.
Listener.
Ingrid.
Yes.
I want to speak because I understand Dana. I don't know if you noticed, but I have to take notes when people are talking, and it annoys people. But I have a auditory processing disorder, and it takes everything I have to write down. And I'm very anxious when people say, "Oh, can you listen to me?" I'm like, "Oh God, no." So it's really hard for me to do that particular part of this empathy circle.
So you want us to know how difficult it is for you to listen and how you have to take notes because you can't really process that fast. And it's the moment when somebody says, "Will you listen to me?" It's always a bit scary to you. So you really feel Dana, you understand her.
Yeah, and usually when I speak, I say that the first thing I say, I have auditory processing disorder, so I'm going to take notes. Because sometimes people have not loved it. And I just wanted Dana to know that because it for me, I mean, I could talk to anybody. I talked to a wrong number, 5,000 people tonight, unprepared. But listening is scary for me, not because of the emotional piece, because I actually cognitively am not that good at it yet. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you have sometimes experienced that people kind of don't like you taking notes, and you mentioned that when you are the listener, and so it's so easy for you to speak. You can speak just spontaneously to a few thousand people and doesn't bother you. But the listening is a challenge because it's a cognitive challenge for you. You actually cannot do it easily.
Exactly. And when I got my PhD, the professors would be like, "You're the best listener in class," because my whole body listened because it took everything I had to listen to them. And so I was like, it was all in like this. And this is hard. This is a harder environment for me to pull everything and see. There's no bodies here. It's just flat screens. So yeah, so it is also hard for me, Dana, to reflectively listen in the empathy circles.
Yeah, it is hard for you, even though your professor at the PhD program said to you, you are the very best listener. But you were such a good listener because you were just putting everything you had into the listening. And it is easier for you when it is in person than when you have only the screen. It's a real challenge for you. So you want Dana to know how hard it is for you, even though we may not know that without you sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks, Ingrid. I feel completely heard.
You're welcome. Let's see. Josh, would you be my listener?
Yes.
I like the topic of trust. Because I am in a lot of empathy circles, I may forget how hard it is for people to share, and I like to be reminded of it.
You're citing the topic of trust because your regular participation in empathy circles may have dulled your sense of how difficult it is for people to sort of start their trust engine.
That's right. And because I'm used to going into the circle and trusting the sense that the other person listens, I may not remember how many people out there would not trust that people they don't know will actually listen to them in an empathic way.
I feel like you're talking about your sense of mindfulness here, Ingrid, and the necessity of reminding yourself to be patient with other people over trust issues. Did I get that right? I sort of paraphrased.
Yeah, I'm aware of, because I am in the empathy circles a lot, that can inside me lead to an unconscious assumption that others will go to a circle with the same attitude that I do, but that is not so. They have not had the experience and it's harder for them.
So, yeah, your regular participation in empathy circles tends to give you an unconscious assumption that other people have the same level of empathic, I don't know, awareness,
Trust.
trust.
Even in the word, even in the concept of empathy. It may not even be so that they are in an empathy circle, but just hearing empathy from a stranger may not connect in their thinking to, oh, this is a good thing. These people will listen to me. They don't associate empathy with being heard when it comes from a stranger.
So you're aware that that people may not understand and connect with the concept of empathy, and they may not they don't connect that with the sense of being heard, especially from a stranger.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. I feel heard.
You're welcome. Should I go again?
Yes, please pick a listener.
Let's see. Edwin, would you listen to me?
Yep, listening.
Okay. I'm turning on my timer on my phone because last time I wasn't aware of the time. I've done a lot of timed, I'll just call it empathy work. And so I'm aware of my own propensity to take long sentences, and I understand that I went over last time, maybe even as much as a minute over, but I feel like when one participates, one should always get to complete a thought, even though the timer tells you another thing.
So I just reflect that you just turned on your timer because you thought that you went over before, and putting on the timer will keep you on track. And you've done other timed exercises before as well.
Yeah, I want to definitely go back and say it again, that I think that we need to have a tolerance around time, because not everybody manages time the same way. And I mean, I know for myself that I am given to long pauses. So sometimes it takes more than the allotted time to flesh out a thought.
So you want to be a little more flexible around the amount of time people are given, because it takes some people a bit longer to kind of flesh out their thoughts.
That's right. I think that so again, I sort of always extrapolate from my own self. I feel like that's a really positive thing to do. I have learned that if one person asks a question, probably another 10 people have the exact same one, but they're afraid to say it. And so this informs my practice of empathy. Again, I want to emphasize my own practice of empathy, because as much as I've facilitated um, groups, I am always at the beginning. I have to begin again every time.
So this facilitates your work with empathy, because you've done a lot of different groups, but when you join a group, start a group, you're always feeling like a beginner.
That's right. Thank you, Anne, for hearing me.
Okay, then speak to Jesse. Yeah, just building on the what Josh is saying, that when the time is up, you can finish your thought and get a final reflection. So it's not like, hey, here's the time, you got to stop, dead stop, but you kind of finish that thought in a sentence or two. You know, you kind of try to wrap it up in a sentence or two.
Yes, to reflect Josh's comment about the timing. Usually when the time is out and you haven't finished your thoughts, you have time to give a summary of your thoughts. You have time to process your thoughts and give a summary of your thoughts.
And the times are also to kind of give a sense of equality in terms of time, because there's some people will go on for, you know, half an hour if you don't have a time limit, and then everybody else is like, I want to speak too. You know, how come that person gets all the time to speak? So it kind of creates kind of moves towards a bit of a fairness in terms of attention and times, which is a good practice to, I think. Yeah.
But this time system is just to trying to allocate quality time for everybody, so it doesn't happen that one person can speak half hour long or forever, then other people feel like it's not relevant for them and need to also say something. So it's a system, it's a structure to be inclusive to everybody and have the time frame within the hour.
Mm-hmm. And also, I want to build on what you were saying. You know, that when you have the empathy in the circle, because you know you're being heard and it's mutual, but then you go out into society, you don't have that mutuality. That's why we need the empathy movement, is to make it a cultural norm that, you know, everybody's kind of familiar with empathy and the whole empathic mindset. So you can go out anywhere and the society is supporting, you know, sort of an empathic way of being.
So regarding my comments about trying to using empathy technique with the society, it doesn't work. You think that's why we need an empathy movement, so educated a society, so everybody can understand what empathy is and then involved in practicing empathy circle in the society.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, and you know, like right now we have the polarization here in the United States with the left and right, Democrats and Republicans. If they were having empathy circles, everybody getting a chance to speak and, you know, kind of coming up to solutions together, I think that would be much, that's part of the movement to bring them into an empathy movement. Yeah.
So right now, we have a polarized society, left and right, and people are like point finger to each other. If they would have empathy circle, that will make the society more harmonized, peaceful.
Yep, I feel heard.
Great. So can I go back to Edwin? How many, do we still have time to do that?
Yeah,
we have 15 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay. So I like to talk about how to approach, why we need investors in empathy circle.
Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about why we need investors in the empathy circle, for the empathy circle, or maybe the whole movement?
Yes. First of all, I haven't been involved in nonprofit, and I've been involved in another organization, sister city, Chinese sister city, Weihai in Santa Barbara. I'm the president, but we're not a nonprofit yet. From a person who has experience in for-profit business, I think the structure to legally and financially set for people who involved into this nonprofit or for-profit business is very important.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of more in the business field. You haven't done nonprofit section part, but you just think the business setup is very important. So the structure, financial structure is important.
And the legal structure.
Financial legal structure.
Yes, especially in California. Yes. And also, I've been involved in startups. Every investor has their own target investment goals. So we want to know what, first of all, we want to express why, we want to do empathy circle and how effective it is, and what's our goal. And two, we want to listen to the investor, what's their goal, what they want to invest in.
Mm-hmm. So to do the investing, you need to hear from like the empathy center, what's our goal, what are we wanting to accomplish, as well as hearing from the investor, what are their interests and what do they want to invest in. You need to hear from both parties what they want.
Yes. Yes, because each investor have different target, different perspective, and we want to learn from them and see if we can incorporate their goal into our organizational goal.
Yeah, so I want to see if there's going to be all these different investors, and can we get their goal to match with our goals?
Incorporate, yeah. Second is we want to know how educatable the investor, because the investor has to be understand what the empathy circle means. And for me, with startup business is one of the ways, because of a startup. It's like empathy circle to me. It's like a startup idea and a spiritual movement. We want to educate the market, also educate the investors.
Mm-hmm. So, like the empathy movement or the empathy centers is like a business startup, and as a startup, you have to educate the investors and have sort of an educational process. And that was the time to Ingrid.
Okay, great. I feel heard, and I think that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Okay, I'll speak to Felicia. Yeah, I think all this talk about the finances and all that is important to really grow a movement. I haven't been very good at generating income, but something we definitely need to, I mean, all these political movements, they have tons of money pouring into them, but I don't see a lot of money coming into like the empathy work.
So, yeah, you're glad you're talking a lot about the money and and the empathy movement to grow the movement, because you don't feel that you've been very good at getting funding to grow the movement, and you think that's required. And you look around and you see all these political movements are like floods of money coming in, and it just pushes them forward.
And I'm just going to send a notice that we have 10 minutes to closing. So I just sent that notice to everybody. Hopefully everybody's got that just so they can prepare. So I'm glad, Jesse's interested in that and, get some advice and meet some of these impact investors and kind of start that process.
I'm glad that Jesse's here and she's interested in that and is knowledgeable around that. And it would be really great to have some of these impact investors and get some of that process started.
And yeah, and I just thinking about educating investors, because we've done the empathy tent where we mediated between the political left and right. The people are hugging each other afterwards, and I put that information out there. It even was written up in Scientific America, which has 4 million subscribers. Actually came out in Chinese, Scientific America version, and but it didn't seem to really lead to anything. So I don't know. It's kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Type situation. So yeah.
So you thinking about educating investors, you had that tent and it was amazing, mediating left and right. At the end, people with diametrically opposed opinions were hugging each other.
Mm-hmm.
You had the article, 4 million viewers in Scientific American. It was also in Chinese, but you didn't see visible evidence that it led to anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know what it takes. Is it like a marriage? Like people don't go to conflict mediation until they're about ready to get a divorce. You know what I mean? So maybe that's the situation. It's so much easier, farther down the conflict level scale to, put in energy and time to kind of healing the relationship. But than if you wait until you're just ready to have a divorce.
So you're like, what does it take? Is it like a marriage? People are waiting till it gets so bad, and we have to wait till we're on the precipice for the empathy circles to be taken up. Wait till we're on the abyss, because it's so much harder if you wait and wait and wait and you don't take care of it early, and you're waiting, and then you're like, oh, maybe empathy circles is a solution to this. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
feel very heard. Thank you.
So Felicia, you have the last speaking turn.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Dana, do you want to listen to me maybe?
Yeah. Sure, I'll try it again, yeah.
Okay, good. I liked what Edwin was saying. I mean, are we just going to wait till the world's just corrupted and filled with hate, or could we kind of get this going a little earlier before we're facing a divorce?
You're wondering if it's like what Edwin said, where we have to come to a sort of a crisis moment to bring us all together to get to where we want.
Yeah, I mean, that's sad. I mean, and some of us probably think we're already at the seventh level of hell. And so it's way past the time for empathy movement.
Oh, you feel that we're kind of in a sad place. We're already in the seventh place of hell, and we've already passed the moment where we need an empathy movement.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that I love this idea of the money and maybe giving that a push, like those super PACs. Maybe that will be just the shot in the arm that this movement needs.
You're hoping that bringing in more money with super PACs, it will bring in the momentum that this movement needs.
Yeah, because I do think though that Edwin might not see the impact and might not see visible evidence of all the work that's being done in the empathy movement. It might be hard to measure.
You feel that Edwin might not see all the impact that it's already having.
Yeah, because it's a hard thing to measure.
Because it's a difficult area to measure, to give worth to.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel completely heard, Dana. High five.
Thank you for letting me try again.
That was wonderful.
Oh wait. Oh, now do you want to talk, Dana?
Oh, it's okay. We're wrapping up. We're close to the end, so
we do have 5 more minutes. So Dana, you would be so welcome to share.
If anybody else would prefer, I'd rather not.
Okay. Well, is there anyone who wants to say something? Who wants
we do a
another
debrief,
Josh?
a little debrief?
Josh, did you? I
Yeah,
saw you raise your hand.
I would be happy to.
Who would you like to be your listener, Josh?
Well, how about Alicia? I don't think I've spoken to you yet.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
let's see. I think I'm going to start off with my appreciation to the organizers again, and I'm going to try to practice something of going a little bit more slowly.
Okay, so it sounds like you want to start off with sending out an appreciation to the organizers, and you're going to try a little new strategy where you're going to move a little more slowly.
Yeah, as I said, I always approach these types of things with a lot of vulnerability. That's comes across in my willingness to go first, which is a risk. My sometimes I approach topics peripherally or adjacently rather than directly. which is also another risk.
Okay, so you feel like you always approach these kinds of environments with vulnerability that's evidenced by the fact that you will gladly go first, and also evidenced by the fact that you will approach topics more peripherally, which requires more risk.
Yeah, so again, I want to just highlight that I really believe that empathy is a practice. And as others have said, it's not always easy. I think, Jesse, you said it. It's not always easy to bring the empathy from the circle into the other spheres of life.
Okay, so you want to highlight your belief that empathy is a practice, and as others and Jesse said, it's not really always easy, and that sometimes it's hard to integrate some of the practices that you might be successful in a circle into everyday life with no structures, without the same structures.
Thank you. To go back to what Edwin said about marriage, I had a marriage that didn't end well. Part of the reason was I wanted to trade time. You take 3 minutes, I'll take 3 minutes. But that agreement could not be breached between us. So I would let her speak for 3 minutes and she would stop me in the middle after I hadn't said what I needed to say. Then just to sort of, all I wanted to do was emphasize what Edwin had said, or someone about divorce.
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize. You wanted to emphasize what Edwin had said, that you had a marriage that didn't maybe end well, because you wanted to have this agreement where, hey, I'll speak 3 minutes, then you speak 3 minutes, and we'll take turns. It'll be very amicable. But you felt like she would speak 3 minutes and then just interrupt you as you spoke your 3 minutes.
Okay, and Josh, unfortunately, the time is up, and it's up for the whole circle now. I really appreciate your sharing so deeply
I
and
feel
your
heard.
vulnerability.
Okay, good.
So we do have 1 minute where everyone could just share one feeling they have as a result of being here together, and I'll start. I feel inspired. Edwin?
Grateful.
Jesse?
Agreeable. Agreeable.
Agreeable. Dana?
I would say inspired too. Yeah.
Felicia?
I feel lucky. Yeah.
And Josh?
I just had it and then it left my head. Curious.
Curious. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Be in
you.
a big room. We'll have a bit of a debrief there.
Thank you.
Again, hi everyone. I was like, oh, did everybody just get booted? No, we just coming back.
Everybody's on the way back.
So let's see here. Welcome back. Is everybody?
Welcome back, everyone.
Let's see. You're gonna. I see Edwin's doing this for us here. Okay. So I'll just call on everyone who's here to one by one to, I can't move this lack of cooperation of Zoom here. Here we go, to take 30 seconds to share your ideas and projects for building the empathy movement, or whatever you shared from your circle that's relevant. So,
no, Jen, I can't hear you. Oh no, not
I hear you.
again.
I hear you.
You guys can hear her? Oh, this is a
Yeah.
new thing. Never mind.
Okay. So, AC, would you like to share your thoughts and ideas about projects for building the empathy movement, or anything else that you heard or shared in the circle?
Sorry.
We'll come back to you. Okay, Mel? Hi, Mel.
I didn't even realize this when I was sharing it, but I guess it is kind of a contribution to the empathy movement. Is my new book that it's fiction. It hasn't come out yet, but it should come out hopefully by the end of the year. It's called Enlightenment Azuma: The Secret Journal of an Alien, something like that. I haven't actually pinned down the title, but it's all about her home planet uses nonviolent communication to for everything because they blew themselves up in wars and they found out that they needed to learn have more compassion and learn empathy skills. And so it's kind of a way to for people to learn empathy from identifying with the character and feeling her process as she goes through learning the tools. So watch out for Zuma, hopefully coming out by the end of the year.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, place I'd like to go, it sounds like. So, um, Sandra, would you like to share? Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Mel. Yeah.
Thank you.
The host is not allowing us to unmute ourselves. Can you unmute everybody?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out, why that it would.
I can
unmute.
I can invite you one by one. Here, let me invite.
Is there a bulk unmute? So
I'll just invite you one by one. I invited you.
I see the unmute button. Yeah, okay, I've got it now. Thank you. Nice to see you again, Jenna.
I'll ask B after that, so I'll send you your invitation too.
Can you hear me?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I've lost the picture now. There you go. Yeah, so I'd really like to set up a group. And I'm in, of course, somewhere in Dublin. And I'd like to include art or something in that in the group, and invite people to come in person rather than online. And I'd like to take more training. The facilitator training. I'd like to take that training and carry on with the training. I feel I'd like to have the training to give me the confidence and encouragement. But yeah, so that's a choice I'd like to make, and so I'm interested in that. But thank you for having today. Thank you for the teachings today.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah,
More empathy circles here. B, would you like to? And then I'll call on
Yes.
AC and I'll ask you to unmute already.
Yes, I have done broad invitations for people to come to Empathy Circle and had some response, but I think one-on-one is absolutely wonderful. And I have a group of friends that I talk to, and each one individually. And when I have introduced the idea of listening like this, it's been wonderful. And sometimes we use our whole conversation doing the empathy circle process. And I think they probably will join an empathy circle one day. But it's wonderful on just a personal level too. We find it efficient, believe that. And also personal, and we connect really well and hear what each other means and feels and says. So one-on-one, one at a time. Thank you. And thank you today.
Thank you. Thank you, B. Thank you. One at a time, we can build the empathy movement. Thank you. I like that. And Jesse after AC. Go ahead, AC. You can.
Thanks. Yeah, first, thanks for hosting. Thanks for the discussion. I always love these. So it's nice to be here. Our circle, one thing that stood out for me was we came back to this tension between, okay, we know how to care for our friends and we know how to care for the people that are close in our life. But there's this gap and almost this tension between, when we take away our job, when we take away like our money and this wider like colonized West mentality of like everybody compete for resources, and we take it back to more of the like we know how to care for each other. And so there's this tension between, okay, if we want to expand the way that we care for each other, we almost need to bring more people into the family. And we talked about grassroots versus more of the like billionaire kind of, people calling the shots, if you will. And so I want to use that to build to. I mean, I found this movement from activist and grassroots circles, and I thought that was really powerful. And I think the empathy practice really makes a strong difference in the activist circles because it's a way to regenerate and keep that momentum going. But it also helps embed the culture in that more like decentralized, more broad spaces. Yeah, so I don't know. Again, thank you.
Thank you, AC. Yeah, I hear more empathy circles. Thank you. Yeah, good. Jesse, go ahead, and then I'll ask Dana. Yeah. No, she doesn't want to. Okay, Josh, will you be comfortable after Jesse to share? So Jesse, go ahead, and then Josh.
Okay, thank you. Jana, nice to see you here. So I feel my understanding of empathy right now is understanding with whole feeling of somebody else and myself. It's part of, for me, it became a part of mindfulness practice. Understand others and understand myself. And I'm a strong believer of a system. When a system that's practiced again and again proved to be successful, it's going to easier to expand with group efforts. So I believe empathy circle so far it's successful because of its structure, its system. And I hope empathy movement have a system also set up for everybody who understand how the system works and apply it chapter by chapter, sector by sector, and regionally, one region at a time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your vision. Thank you. Josh, go ahead, and then I'll ask Stephen, I guess, if that's okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jen. I'm conscious of there being so many good ideas here, and I'm also aware of the leadership of many people, and the participation of many organizations in this. I note that there are so many people here who are leaders in empathy already, and I think that I want to reflect my own sense of concern about how individuals and groups can work together despite their different locuses of leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh, for sharing a concern about how we can all get together since we're all kind of atomized, the leadership. Thank you. Nita, would you like to, who's next? Stephen, and then Nita, I'll ask you after Stephen. Stephen, are you there? I'm not sure. Nita, would you like to share? And then Quanta, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very glad to be here today. It's letting me know that I'm on the right track. Because among the things I have done in the last recent time is to introduce nonviolent communication, which has a part of empathy in it, in my church. And just lots of great ideas have come up. The people are being, it was a struggle at first, but folks are becoming more and more receptive and actually working with the principles and so forth. So I want to uh, get the facilitation training so I'll know how to uh, run the empathy circles or do whatever it calls for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that, your own actions for growing empathy with an NVC. That's amazing. Ingrid, would you like to share?
Yeah, well, I'll just keep going with what I'm doing, keep showing up, keep being involved, keep also, I think it's also really important receiving empathy yourself, and the circles are so wonderful in that aspect of the mutuality. So I am here. I'm here to stay. I'm just really looking forward to the growth we have with every summit. There's new people who come in, and the things you all want to do. It's wonderful. I'm happy about that.
Thank you, Ingrid. Catherine, would you like to share? You shared as a speaker. Would you like to share?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry that I couldn't attend the rest of it. I'm at another event, but I am really looking forward to listening to the recording, and it's beautiful to hear the debriefs happening here that I've been able to hear about how rich the community and the leadership in the community is growing. So I'm celebrating that, and I just it feels like a wide open space in a way, and I do believe that we, as I spoke to that in the business community, that it's opening up and it's going to get just bigger and bigger. I mean, that's definitely my hope. And despite the fact that there are some people that are have concerns about empathy, but whenever I really look at their reasonings, for me, they don't hold water. And so so I have a belief that they're going to discover that at some point as well.
Mm.
So yeah, big celebration and a big thank you to you all. And I'm looking forward to, again, hearing everyone who spoke when I get to listen to the recording. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Thank you for wide open space and the business community. Thank you, Felicia. Would you like to speak? And then
yeah. I like the idea of bucket loads of money being infused into the movement. I think that's a very important piece. And I think that keep going with that. That's the way to go. Fundraisers on all levels. I also like the work I'm doing. Like, I feel like every day in my job, whatever, I'm doing a new master's program, I'm like, oh, I could do that in there, So I feel like I just want to, in my everyday life, add things and keep connected to the Empathy Center and also alleviate some of the suffering in my own life. I think it's hard to do empathy work when you yourself are suffering so much. So that's a piece. But I just like the idea of bringing a lot of money and being very open to that. And like, there's got to be people who are like, this world is effed up, man. I want to dump buttloads of money into the Empathy Center. There's got to be people like that because they're not blind and they have money. So I think that's a really good thing. And the work we're all doing is also really good. Yeah.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you for putting that aspiration out there. Thank you for that suggestion. Bill, would you like to share? And then Akshaya?
Sure. Well, I want to express my appreciation to everybody in the Empathy Circle. I've been there with Mel and Sandra before, and of course, Quanta. And it was great to meet Ramzi and Nita as well. I hope I can support you, Nita. Up, you know, anyway. One of the things I wanted to say that was very important was the bottom up. What's happening in our discourse today, in my opinion, is that we are not being able to communicate with other people because of the constant stress we're in. Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about we lose critical thinking when we're feeling really stressed and things like that. And that's why we react instead of reflect. So that's what the empathy circle does. And I think then helps for people to re-engage with a different experience, helps to kind of reset that. And as far as working with other groups, it's a basic practice that can be adapted for anything that you're doing. So it enhances things. It's not a competition between, is it going to be, empathy A or empathy B? It's everything. So it can be adapted and used. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Yeah. So, Jonathan, after Akshaya. Akshaya, are you available to speak? 30 seconds.
Can you hear
me?
Yeah. And then
okay, great. So today it has been really a very insightful time, and I always remember this quote: competition is the law of the jungle, and cooperation is the law of humanity. But unfortunately, we have reversed it to such an edge that sometimes I wonder whether we are human beings. So these empathy circles are so important, and we really need to expand this to different spheres of life. It has been a very rich experience. So hats off to the founder, that is Edwin Rush, sir, then senior mentors like Jenna, Ingrid, Bill, Daniel, and all the people who are here. It has been a very, not only a rich experience, it really gives us a very strong thought process that if we are not able to listen and understand, our life is useless. So I think Edwin Rush and his team is really doing a very, very noble job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Jonathan?
Well, thank you, Jana. Our circle topic discussion was more about how to work with individual people, and so that was the focus from myself and from the guests in the circle. I'd like to just take this moment to point out that in the chat we have a feedback form. And so we'd like everyone to fill out the feedback form, summit feedback form, and also save your chat. You have to push a button. You have to got to find those little three dots, push the button to save your chat, and then you'll have all the links and all of the stuff that was left in the chat for you to pursue and to learn more about what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm cognizant of the time. Should we continue and go over? Or Edwin, you want to have closing remarks? Or how do you want to do this?
Did everyone get a chance to speak, or is there others?
No, Kara and I and...
Oh, yeah, let's do everybody. Yes, just...
Okay. Kara, go ahead.
I love empathy summits. I love everybody that I heard talking. I am sad I wasn't in the breakouts, but I did get to hang out with a few folks that popped in and share a little empathy in the main room. So it is always just soul-filling and exciting, and I love everything I'm hearing. Thank you. Please continue doing what you're doing. The world appreciates all of you.
Can we get a round of applause for Kara for doing her facilitation of the hosting? Yeah, it was wonderful. Just always a delight. Thank you so much.
Kara. Thank you, Kara. There are a couple of people who chose not to speak. If you change your mind, you have an opportunity. And Daniel, yeah? Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I have to ask you to unmute. Good grief. Okay, here. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I could. Okay. I'm excited to see everybody here looking at the screen and all the people who are into empathy and in the breakout room, make a couple more connections. AC, who left already, Akshaya, to see you again. And there was a woman, I forgot her name, from Europe. So she wants a European time empathy circle. So Ingrid and I talked already about doing one in the morning. So I feel the incredible value in our reoccurring relationships here and in the field we're building with each other. I call it the field of oneness and the field of cooperation or the field of empathy. And it's a real thing. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Daniel. Edwin, you want to say anything?
Ready for closing? So, yeah, I just want to Well, first thing, what came up in our group was the topic of trust, and I thought that was an important topic. When everybody needs to trust the process and trust the empathy movement itself, so that the movement is something that people trust. And I think for the polarization in the country, both sides need to trust the empathy movement. A lot of conservatives are writing misunderstood, books against empathy. I think somebody mentioned it's just a misunderstanding of what it means. And the way to develop trust is just to offer listening and try to hear everyone out and then have a constructive dialogue. So I just want to take that to heart. In terms of next steps here, we have yes, I posted in the chat a list of things you can do, and like, well, and then the first one is be a speaker at a future summit. So you can see the link there to what's involved in being a speaker. Just follow the links. If you could fill out the feedback form for this summit, if you can just right now click on that so you have it up and you can easily fill it out after this session. And to be a volunteer, we have a team of 4 who we've done a lot of these and we're really experienced and can really whip them out. But we'd like to have more summits on other topics too, and so we'd really like to expand the team. So we'd love to have you, join the team. And the next Empathy Summit is next Saturday. Is Saturday, November 8th, and it's just a month away, and it's on exploring empathy circles, the topic of empathy circles, and we have 8 speakers for that. And then we have you can check our Empathy Center, the empathyscenter.org website, and that's a gateway to all of our various projects. And the online facilitation training with Bill is leading starts next week, next Saturday. So that's the chance to sign up for that. And then there's a link to the empathy circles worldwide. There's circles held. I see B is here, and she has one that she holds, and a lot of other people hold various circles, and you can, get some experience and connect with each of those communities. And like Jonathan keeps mentioning, if you save the chats, click on the 3 buttons in the chat and then do save as. It'll save all these links in case you want to get back. And finally, again, the feedback form. Really hope you'll fill those out. And so we'd like to just end with some applause hands, thanking everybody. Thank you. And we shall see you next time, next November 8th. Look forward to seeing you there. Really great to see everyone. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so we're going to have let me stop the recording.